Go.
No Jumper. Coolest podcast in the world. And today we got a legendary SoundCloud rapper, Adam22.
What's poppin'?
Very special guest today, man.
Can't believe it finally happened. You're interviewing me.
Welcome to the show. I mean, honestly, you've been hitting us up a lot to get on, and it's been annoying as fuck.
Right.
But
Can I just say Cash Cardi showed up right before we did this, just randomly on a BMX bike?
And Nate thought he was a random fan.
Yeah, that was bizarre. That really set the tone for this interview.
Yeah, he was cool, man.
let's talk
cool.
about let's start right in with that. You employ people at this store,
Right.
who are primarily BMX guys. Out the back
All BMX guys.
Yeah, all BMX. At the back of the store, though, you run the most influential rap podcast in the world.
Arguably, but okay.
Shouldn't these guys have to get educated on rappers?
No, I mean, actually, that's the funny thing about Nate is that Nate has actually edited videos to like Playboy Cardi songs, but he didn't know what he looked like. Which may mean that he's racist, but also could just mean that he's not paying that close of attention.
Yeah.
That's okay.
He seemed chill that Nate didn't know him.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a poppin' underground rapper, I think you got to accept that some percentage of people aren't going to know about you.
Yeah.
Do you get mad when people don't know who you are?
I don't know.
Where are you most recognized at?
Like
Event.
Suicide Boys shows, Puya shows, like shit like that, Xavier Wolf shows.
Damn. Okay. Let's go all the way back just to kind of give us a little base, because there are a bunch of interviews with you out. If anyone really wanted to do their research, they could. But maybe we'll get some new insights, because you tell a story 50 times.
Right.
It could be different every time.
True.
Yeah.
So we know you're from New Hampshire. And you
Some
spent time in
random ass
Boston.
part of New Hampshire, by the way.
Well, it's like I'm from New Hampshire, but New Hampshire, like Nashua, New Hampshire, so I'm like 5 minutes from the Massachusetts border. It's like the southernmost city in New Hampshire. So it's like living right outside Massachusetts. And like also in New Hampshire, it's like from a cultural perspective, you just relate to Boston because that's where the sports teams are.
Okay.
You want to go out to a nice club or some shit, you end up going to Boston. It's like there's a million little like small like suburban towns all around Boston, and I'm just kind of from one of those in
How
a
much
lot of
time
ways.
did you spend in Boston?
Well, as a kid, you would go there to like go to the museums and shit like that. Like when you're a little kid, and then once I turned like 14, it was like every weekend, like getting our friend's mom to give us a ride to the fucking to go ride there or some shit. I'm just gonna turn my voice down. It's weird.
Feels weird being out of the captain's chair. By the way, this chair is comfortable as hell. All the other chairs are bullshit. Which kind of makes sense. I mean, Adam's going to make sure that his ass is real comfy in these interviews.
No, of course.
Also, I'm doing the Adam signature interviewing pose, which is left arm here, right arm here.
Check.
Looking pretty stoned, and just be like, no jumper.
Check.
No jumper.
I am 0% stoned. I'm sick right now. So if I don't seem like myself, it's because I'm feeling a little sick.
Well, Jordan played some of his best games with the flu. So.
Wow.
Did he?
Do you know who Jordan is?
Yeah, he's a basketball guy, right?
Michael Jordan. Yeah.
When did you first start drinking?
When I was like 22. I drank a little bit in high school.
yeah.
I tried it out, but I was straight edge all through.
Why be straight edge?
Well, being where I'm from, and like, especially being wrapped up in the hardcore scene, it actually just kind of seemed obvious. It was like a lot of like the cool people in that scene or whatever. And I mean, I was a kid listening to like Strife and Earth Crisis and all this shit, and Minor Threat and Youth of Today, and I just grew up on it.
We might have talked about this, but did you have to force yourself to like some of that shit?
There's like an element of that I think early on with hardcore and shit because I don't know, it's just like the thing with me in hardcore is that there's a lot of bands that I really love, but like most popular hardcore doesn't really do it for me because I like stuff that's like a bit more like melodic and shit.
It's
so
inaccessible. It's grinding to the ears. It doesn't sound.
And I don't like metal, so
Yeah. So you, why are you rebelling so much? Why are you listening to hardcore? It seems kind of countercultural. Just is it?
Well, when I was a kid, I mean, I grew up listening to rap from like a real young age, like 9. I got super obsessed with rap. And then I had to kind of like discover rock music like from there. Like I remember like Green Day were the first punk band I liked when I was maybe in like 4th grade. And then by the time I was in like 6th or 7th grade, I was listening to all alternative stuff, Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, fucking all that shit. And then it was weird because at a certain point when I was like 13 or whatever, it used to be that you either listen to rock music, you listen to rap, and it was like really strange, out of the ordinary to do both. And I was really passionate about both, but I remember I kind of like fell back on listening to like a lot of the rap that I liked at the time because it just didn't seem like it agreed with a lot of the hardcore shit I was into and stuff. So I started to listen to more underground rap. I was listening to Black Star and Jedi Mind Tricks and all this shit for a while, but in
7th and 8th grade versus high school.
7th and 8th grade were high school for me, for the record.
Okay, so
7th through 12th were all high school.
Oh, okay.
Or
So-
7th through 9th is junior high, and then 10th through 12th is high school.
Is there active straight edge versus drinker cliques in your high school?
I wouldn't say it was like it's not like there was like a rivalry, but
Would
there
you
was,
chill with kids who drank?
I mean, I had friends in all kinds of different groups, yeah, but it was also like the BMX kids that I rode with and stuff, even if they didn't claim to be straight edge, it's like you're 15 or 16, it's like we just were like that crew that didn't party or drink. We went out and rode bikes and fucked girls in the woods.
Let's talk about the day you broke edge.
You're skipping so much of me, like getting early into BMX. That's fine, but
I'm gonna go back.
The day that I broke edge. Okay, yeah. So I'm like 21, 22.
Oh wow!
And there used to be this hardcore band that I was touring with and stuff, and the singer dude actually ended up like over the course of like a summer, he like basically got fed up with the band, stole a bunch of money from the band, broke edge. And it was just, I moved to New York at that same time, and then my one homie beat the fuck out of him, put him in the hospital for a couple weeks. And I just like, I'm in New York looking at all this shit happening in Boston and just realizing like, wow, that is such like a toxic scene out there. And if I want to make something out of my life, I can't be focused on fighting and running around and acting crazy at shows and all that shit. So I just kind of fell back on it. And I think I like slammed a beer, and then I didn't drink again for like 3 years just because I wanted to be like, no, I'm not straight edge anymore, but I didn't. Even then, I didn't have an interest in getting fucked up back then.
Yeah.
You slammed one beer,
and I was like,
and you're like, "That's what it was."
It was a ceremonial beer. I just did it because I was like, "Fuck straight edge, I'm over it."
And did you feel anything? A buzz or?
I mean, like if you smash a beer, I guess you feel like a tiny little buzz for a few seconds there, right?
Well, if you never drank it ever,
yeah, if you never drank before,
you would probably be pretty lit.
But I mean, it definitely wasn't. I didn't put a lampshade on my head and start running around.
All right, so you claim straight edge for the first like 10 years or ever since you turned like hit puberty.
I probably started claiming it around like 12 or 13. Just because like I had older influences in my life that were like straight edge too, so it just seemed cool to me. And then all the bands I liked. And in BMX at the time, it was very common, very popular to be straight edge. It's just such a different time because when you think about like LA now, the cool people are people who smoke blunts all the time.
Yeah, who are all fucked up on.
You know, and even like I feel like motherfuckers don't talk about Xans and perks as much as they used to. But even like a year or two ago, that was still like you're not really cracking unless you're that kind
unless
of
you're
guy.
on prescription drugs.
Hey, I'm lucky though because I feel like I'm incredibly thankful that I was able to like go through, and that's why I think I have like a very healthy relationship with drugs now because it's like it wasn't like ingrained into my brain at a young age that I had to fuck with all this shit. So now it's like I can smoke weed. People want to be like, oh, you're a cokehead because you do coke every once in a blue moon. But I mean, like House Phone can vouch that I'm not like, I'm not crazy with any drug. Like I never really let any drug have like a negative effect on my life.
You're too cheap to be a cokehead.
I mean, you're right on that too, but I mean, I just don't.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I mean, like I've seen you like drunk before, but I don't think I've ever seen you like incoherent.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know. I just feel like this is not your thing. I didn't know anything about you being straight edge until 20. So that's pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. Does straight edge mean no fucking?
No, that's like because the original song by Ian MacKaye with Minor Threat was like, I don't drink, I don't fuck, I don't smoke, not in that order, but that like very quickly kind of got lost from the whole straight edge thing. And I mean, like even then, him saying I don't fuck, he was really just saying like I don't involve myself in like malicious sexual activity, like because he was talking about going to high school parties and seeing like a dude fucking a passed out girl or seeing just people acting really shady to each other, and that I think it was like the sentiment of that. But I think that like modern straight edge pretty much is just like about drugs and drinking.
Okay, so let's go back now to high school, and you're chilling, and you're in like New Hampshire for the most part when you're like a little kid, and then you start going to Boston more.
Yeah.
Is Boston have an effect on riding bikes, or is it New Hampshire, or is like?
Well, I got into BMX just because all the cool kids in the neighborhood like rode BMX. It's like everybody has a BMX bike when they're 12 or 9 or 10 or whatever. And then 13, 14, 15, 16, as you start to get into cars, you just get you don't think riding a bike is cool anymore, then it kind of fades away for a lot of people. But for me, it was just the kids in the neighborhood who were into it. I thought it was badass. And it quickly just like, it dawned upon me that this was my way out. Like if I needed to, because all of a sudden like I would be.
That really hit you when you were 13?
That young?
Yeah, well, it was my way out of not my way out of New Hampshire,
of your
but
driveway.
It was my way out of my having to deal with my parents because I had kind of like a somewhat rough like family life, especially.
Your dad hit you?
Yeah, it was like some abusive scenarios and stuff. We're like super cool now, but it was like I was just going to war with my dad, like fighting and shit every day.
Did he hit you with objects?
No, he just hit me with his fists.
Yeah. Did you ever like square up with him back? Like you guys like actually fight?
I don't know if I ever had really like the guts to hit him back because the truth is that shit was over by the time I was like 17.
Oh,
and
yeah.
by that time it probably would have turned into that. But I don't know. I'm like really lucky with that shit too because like I think my dad like realized he had an anger problem when he was 17 or 18.
Was he drinking?
No, my dad's so straight laced, but it's more just like stress because like my dad went to jail and shit when I was like 6th grade, and that kind of fucked up my whole family life real bad because all of a sudden my mom is like tasked with taking care of 2 kids. One of them is fucking crazy. Like at that age I was getting so much trouble and shit, and my dad's off in the fucking pen for like over a year, and I'm fucking just wilding out, acting crazy. And it's like I see my mom like crying every night because she was having such a hard time keeping the family together and shit like that. And so then it was kind of like my dad comes back from jail and he's so stressed out having to deal with all this bullshit, and then meanwhile he's got me acting out. It's like, in truth, he probably should have sent me to a fucking special school or
Why did
some
you go to
shit.
jail?
It was a whole bunch of shit. He's like white collar criminal, basically, is what they got him for. But it's basically some shit that was kind of like underhanded. That in some people's opinions, he did something immoral, like through his, because he was an alderman through the state, and he also worked for this construction company, getting them
Mafia shit.
Not, well, I mean, not really, but it was just more like, you know, somebody could abuse their position within the government and within the place where he worked.
You think your dad ever killed anybody?
Hell no. My dad is like, it's funny to even think about the fact that he went to jail because he was such a straight-laced guy. He told me he'd never owned a porno magazine, never cheated on my mom, and I 100% believe him.
Well,
He like smoked weed, but that's about it, I
Let's
think.
talk chicken or the egg. Like, was your dad hitting you before you went into jail? Or
Yeah, I mean, that was an element of my life, like, always growing up. And it's like, even when I got older, when I like really started to get in trouble when I was like 16, 17, and they sent me to like a therapist to talk about all that shit, that was kind of the assessment that they gave me. It was like, you know, the reason why you're so fucked up and the reason why you can't chill out and the reason why you act out so much is because you grew up in a family life where you never felt safe and you never felt like I grew up feeling like I was always at risk of like ending up in some shit because of whatever, because of nothing. And then, you know, like as I got older, it just stayed with me. And I guess like even now when I look at my life and I'm like, man, the fact that I'm such a workaholic and that I can't chill out, a lot of that probably comes from that I fucking never really, I don't know. And it's weird to even say it like that though, because in a lot of ways my parents were amazing parents. Like they did an incredible job, but it was just the fact that my dad had anger problems. But then by the time I was like 18, like basically he was convinced that he had anger problems as well. He had to go to like a therapist and shit because like him and my mom were starting to argue and get into it like crazy. And then
would he hit your mom too?
It was like it almost got to that level one time, and then like she basically like had this meltdown where she realized that she was fucking up because she had never said anything about
does that make her a bad mom for not stepping in?
I don't think it makes her a bad mom. I think that when I look at my parents, like a lot of this stuff back then, they were just under so much stress, like really like trying to raise 2 kids and being like broke and having to scrape and save for everything. It's like when I look at it now, I'm like, man, I can't really like completely judge my dad for him being like weird with me, because it's like I know how hard it is to be a man. And if I had a family, like I would love to think that I could be the perfect father, but I'm not like violent like that. Like I could never ever imagine myself hitting anybody like in that scenario.
That's crazy, right?
But I can imagine myself being a fucking asshole and screaming on somebody and everything like that. So my dad like came to me when I was 18. He apologized to me and told me like, he's like, I realized that like my anger issues have had an adverse effect on you, and I want to apologize to you for it. And like me and him have pretty much been good since, and we have actually an amazing relationship now, but you know,
that's really good to hear.
Yeah, it was good that my mom at some point just kind of brokered that between us, because we were real fucked up all through high school.
Well, let's talk about therapy then. Did you find value in that?
I did, because there was this guy Jeff Levin when I was 16, and they had me going to like Concord, New Hampshire to go see a therapist. And it was like, at first it was 100% I did not want to do it, but I had been arrested a couple times and shit for fighting and all this stuff, and they basically were just like, you have to do this, or like it was. I don't think it was like assigned by the court, but it was the kind of thing where like they basically like told my parents that they had to. And honestly, like I felt like he was the first person that I ever met in my life that really like breathed like real confidence into me and really convinced me that I was special, and I know that's what they have to tell every kid, but he seemed like really like particularly impressed by me, and especially like I was painting and doing a lot of art at the time, and like he hung up a bunch of my paintings in his like office and stuff, and he would just talk to me every day and just really be like, or not every day, but every time I'd go in, and he was just like, you don't have to be acting like this, you don't have to act out, you don't have to get yourself into these situations, like you are worthy of something better than what you've gotten yourself into and what you turn your life into. And I don't know, it just had like a real, having somebody that was older that I respected saying that to me just really, it did have a big effect on me at that age.
That's an interesting point, because I think a lot of times you hear when kids are abused or hit or something like that, they might start blaming themselves. Did you ever think, I'm just getting hit because I'm a bad kid?
Yeah, of course. You're like back and forth. Like you don't know if it's you and you don't know if it's them, and you're, you know, but then like as you get older and you start to see like the forest from the trees, and you start to realize like, fuck, like this is not about me. Like and I don't know, it's hard for you to figure that out as a kid.
Yeah.
So therapy helped you still go to therapy?
No, I haven't even thought about it since I was like 17. Although, I mean, I've thought about it in the sense that like, I don't know, but at the same time, like I feel like I would sit down in the therapist chair and start talking about my life, and they'd be like, "You have it together, like you 100% know what's going on." Like the things that are wrong with me at this point, like that I worry about myself, are such small things. Like I worry about my ability to be in a serious relationship or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's like, I don't know. It's like I don't feel like I have that many like malfunctions. I feel like I've had like some anger issues where I would like be yelling at people about shit that I shouldn't yell at them about, like especially with my employees and stuff. But I also feel like I kind of like have sorted out a lot of that stuff. Like a couple years ago, my employees would have told you that I was a fucking asshole and that I was bringing my bad mood into the workplace or like how I dealt with them. And I don't feel like I really do that anymore because I feel so fulfilled now with No Jumper that I think that like when I look at why I was angry a couple years ago or why I like didn't have as good a vibe or whatever, I think a lot of it was just the fact that I didn't feel completely fulfilled running the BMX website. And like then I got a bike shop and started doing No Jumper, and now I just feel so much happier.
Yeah, young men need like some structure and work. I feel like when you're like, especially between the ages of 18 and 22, when all that testosterone's kicking in or whatever, and you just kind of like got all these fucking chemicals running through your body, you're almost like a different person. You're almost constantly on like this.
But I'm even talking about like 3 years ago that I was just like, I don't know. It's like I didn't know how to deal with having so much responsibility on my shoulders. And then over time, I've like not only got into a position where having somebody like Alfredo that like runs so much of my business and helps me so much with the things I'm not good at, doing taxes and dealing with all the money and shit like that. That takes a lot of weight off my shoulders because it's like a constant pressure having to deal with like the financial side of things when somebody like me, like I barely went to college. I went to college for 2 years and then and basically did nothing the whole time and everything. But Alfredo has an actual like business degree and all this shit, so he's much better at like handling that stuff. And like when you're constantly trying to do something that you're not suited to do, not fit to do, like I was, then it's gonna make you stressed out, I think.
Let's help the kids for a second, because I'm sure there's kids out there watching who are getting abused. You know, like
Right.
what would you tell like little Adam, or would you tell somebody out there who's like in a fucked up situation, kind of like you were?
Oh, man, I don't know, because it's like I remember like sitting there crying as like an 8-year-old thinking about I should call the cops, you know, like feeling like, man, like there's something really wrong with like how I'm being treated here and shit. But I mean, now, like, I don't know. I was like, I honestly don't know how.
It's very circumstantial, you know?
Yeah, and everything is on different levels, too, because I feel like on a certain level, like, you as a man, like if you're a 16-year-old kid and your dad smacks you, it's like, well, I don't really necessarily think. Like, at some point, if your kid really won't act right, like, I'll smack the shit out of one of my friends for fucking talking wrong to me just to put the fear of God in their heart and tell them like you can't act like that to me, you know? And I don't think there's necessarily something wrong with your dad doing that, but it's like if it's 100% based on your behavior, then that's one thing, and if it's not, then I don't know. But I can't sit here and say like, oh, you should go to child services. Like I don't know. Every single situation is different in that regard.
Yeah, it's super circumstantial.
And it's crazy. Like even talk. I never thought I would talk about this on camera, but like because like me and my dad, our relationship's amazing now. Like you can see my dad in the vlogs with me.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, there things can be repaired, but like,
Totally,
I mean, what do you think would have happened if you did call child services when you were 8 and they like had someone intervene?
I have no idea. It would have opened up a whole different fucking level of communication. Like what happens at that point, I don't know.
Yeah, because they have to do like some investigation. They don't just come take you away.
And to be fair, like I don't know if it ever really got to that level that I should have done that. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
What was college like for those 2 years you went?
Well, I would like graduate high school, and it was almost like I always felt pretty smart, but I did terrible in school.
Yeah.
And I had to go to summer school every single year in high school and do all this shit. I barely graduated. I almost dropped out right before I graduated. And then like I finally graduated. My parents told me like, you got options. Like you could either get a job and live with us and pay rent, or you could go to college and we'll let you live here for free. Because to my parents, like my parents come from an environment where they grew up really, really, really poor in like the fucking shitty parts of New Hampshire and everything, you know? And so to them, if they're gonna, like to them, education's so important because the only reason why they're in like a good financial position now is because they went to college and were able to get good jobs where they were able to make a decent amount of money.
How do they even get to New Hampshire?
Beats me. They're from, well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about that. That's the most boring thing possible. But like basically,
it's just weird. It's a weird state.
I mean, I don't know how the fuck they ended up there. How did your parents end up in Chicago?
How did anybody end up anywhere?
Yeah, but anyway, like, well, I don't know, I forget what we were talking about.
No, you're talking about college and the two choices you had.
Oh, the two choices, either get a job or go to college. And like the thing about that was good is like my parents had like college fund. They'd been like, and that's a big part of why my family was real broke as a kid, because they thought college was so important that it's like they're gonna save extra money like crazy to be able to make me and my sister be able to have a better life than they had even. And like my sister fully embraced that. I went to school and shit, but I fucking didn't. And it was also because like my mom is a librarian at a community college in Massachusetts, so I was able to get free tuition in Massachusetts. So from my parents' perspective, it's kind of like, this isn't even really costing us much. So just do this. And I was like, all right. So I go to community college for a year and just bodied it, got all straight A's, which was like really easy for me, like because I was taking all easy classes that were like writing and like art classes and shit, which for me is like I can write and I can do art all day. Like that's easy as fuck for me.
Yeah.
And then like I did straight A's there, so I was like, oh, I'm going to UMass Lowell for the next year, and that's like a much better school, and I lived in the dorms. But I mean, as soon as I got there, it was like I was taking economics classes, which I actually really, really love economics, and I still read books about it to this day. But I mean, that was so hard for me to get C's in that class, or like doing math classes and shit. It was like my brain just doesn't like function that way as much necessarily, so it was really, really hard for me. And around that time too was when I started to get into scamming and like doing all this shit. So it was kind of like. And I was still like, I was going to hardcore shows every weekend. I was going on BMX trips. I was leaving school for a week. It was just like my heart wasn't in it. So all of a sudden, I went from straight A's my first year at college to like straight D's with like maybe a B or an A sprinkled in there because it was like some shit that I was actually good at. Yeah. And then by the end of that year, I just like told my mom like, yo, I'm out. I'm moving to New York. And I remember she was just crushed because she just thought I was just fucking blowing it so bad.
Well, like, all right, how did you get into this gambling thing and this like?
Well, scamming comes way before gambling.
Okay, talk about that.
It was. I mean, I talked about it a few times before on other podcasts, but it was basically like I just knew this kid who knew this kid. He got in touch with me, and he basically like just showed me how to do credit card fraud. And so me and my friends had like a little group going basically, and we would just go out. We would go to malls that were 2-3 hours away from where we were from and everything, and just buy flat screens and just laptops and all this bullshit. And fucking I don't know, I was doing that for a long time, and then I moved to New York. Well, I can't say a long time. I was doing it for like a year out there, and then I moved to New York. And
how would you make the credit cards though? What would you do?
You just buy them. Blank credit cards, and then you fucking have a machine that like swipes the info onto it. And then we'd just be going out and doing that all the time, and I made a shitload of money. And then like I moved to New York, and like relatively soon, like within 6 months of that, I was just like, yo, I don't want to do this shit anymore because I hated doing it in New York. Yeah. Because there's so many cops and everything, and it was just, I don't know, I felt like it was really like fucking me up like internally. Like my stress levels were so high because I was just so used to being nervous as fuck all the time, and I had some friends who got caught.
How did they get caught? In the store?
Because like, all right, the thing with the cards is that like the last 4 digits on the card is supposed to match what the last 4 digits are in the card, like what's programmed onto it. So that's why a lot of times when you go to like Best Buy or some shit and you try to buy something, it's like they enter the last 4 digits. So it's like the dude went to a store and bought like some pants and like an expensive ass like snakeskin belt, and then they were like they checked it, the 4 digits, and normally if they went to check the 4 digits, you would notice that they were doing it, and you could be like, oh, like if it didn't work or something, like the alert would come up on the screen like, oh, you know, blah, 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 you can't use this card to do this purchase. Please contact the police. But I would be able to talk my way out of it anytime that would happen. Yeah. But he didn't notice that they were doing it, so he got busted. And
how often would that happen?
Not very often, because we knew which stores did it and which ones didn't. Mm-hmm.
So when did you ever become a BMX pro?
No. I've been riding BMX since I was 13.
I feel like that's the assumption a lot.
Yeah, because I was always around. I was just like a dude in the scene. But to tell the truth, like I wasn't. A lot of people, like, they're BMX riders, and they're not pros, but they go to contests all the time and shit like that. I never went to a contest. For me, BMX was just straight up, like, me and my friends riding around downtown, getting into some shit, doing graffiti, getting in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And it was just never... It was never something that I thought I would make money at, and it was never something that I thought, like, oh, I could go pro or anything like that. Never even crossed my mind, because growing up in New Hampshire, like, I didn't have a role model that said, like, oh, this is what happens if you get really good at BMX. And I was never that kind of dude.
What year did you peak at your skills at BMX? Was there a year you're like, did you ever make an effort, like, I want to get fucking good as hell this year?
No, I was always just chilling, just riding.
Yeah. So you never did, like, you can do a flare, though? Like
Hell no.
I thought you said you're going to get 1 million subscribers and do a flare.
I think Adam LZ might have said that. I didn't say that.
What's your best trick on a bike?
Oh, I'm not answering that. That's a gayest question. Sorry.
1080 Christ Air.
That's like, I mean, I have some good tricks that I've done in my life, but I mean, you're not gonna bait me into being whack as fuck.
You're an okay BMX. You're an okay BMX rider, scammer. Fan of hardcore. Your talents are
all over the board, man.
I mean, your talents are just kind of surviving up to this point.
There's so many more things that are crazy shit that I've been into too. Like, I was the most obsessive video game player you ever met in your life for many years.
What games?
like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Final Fantasy, I'm like the best Tetris player that's not a professional you ever met in your life. I don't know. I was just like super into video games, and I wasn't just into video games. I was into writing about video games. I would write video game reviews on my mom's computer when I was 9, and I did that for probably like 2-3 years, and just nonstop. Like every video game I played, I'd write these like comprehensive reviews, and then I would get other video game magazines and then look at what they said and use that to update my reviews, shit like that. I was always just like an internet kid too. Like I was a heavy like message board dude. I was just like an obsessive internet kid. I was into so many different things, honestly, but I was also just like, oh, I need to sell drugs and scam to make a living, because otherwise, how the fuck am I going to make money? It never even really crossed my mind that I'd be able to make money doing the stuff that I actually love.
Have you ever been diagnosed with like OCD or something?
No, I don't do any of that weird shit.
You seem like you get obsessive into stuff, but is that just I mean,
yeah, I get obsessive with stuff, but it's more like just being like super. I'm not touching doorknobs. I don't do any like weird OCD stuff besides the fact that I'm just obsessive. Like, if I just get interested in something, like when I started playing poker, it was like I went from not playing poker to playing poker 12 hours a day online overnight. Yeah, and it's like I'm not the kind of person that could do something in like a moderate way. Mm-hmm. Like I'm always either doing something 100% or just not doing it at all. Like I have a really hard time doing shit in moderation.
That is funny. When we are sitting here before interviews, I'll show you like some girl on a dating app. You'd be like, "Don't show me that right now."
Yeah. No, it's because like to me, like when you're in a business environment, like I do not want to be seeing pictures of bitches, because I can't. It'll fuck me up in the head, and I won't be able to concentrate. Because to me, it's like that's the same reason I can't look at Tinder, is because when I have had Tinder, it's like I need to look at it like a lot, and I don't have time for that, so I just won't look at it at all. Like I haven't looked at my Tinder in probably 4 months. And I don't know what the fuck's sitting there with. There's probably all kinds of girls throwing themselves at me, but I can't, like, I either need to be like 100% doing something, or I'm just not doing it at all. Yeah. Like with the gym, like I will go a month, 2 months, 3 months working out every single day, and then I will just get in a bad mood one day and not go, and boom, I'm not going for 6 months.
That's almost kind of scary, because it sounds kind of like a super addictive personality too. So like, what happens if like your thing for 3 months is like Coke?
I mean, honestly, I've never had like an unhealthy relationship with any drug ever, besides I guess weed, like smoking too much weed maybe at certain points in my life. But I've never been like that with drinking. You
don't drink every single night?
Hell no, never. I drink maybe like one night a week.
The last 2 vlogs made it look like you were just coming home and slamming a full bottle of bourbon.
But you know what's funny though is that like I will do a vlog most of the time when I'm doing like something fun, going out, doing stuff, and so that's when I'll drink. Is like okay, but I mean, I go to rap shows all the time that I won't even have a drink. You know,
I think it's good to qualify that right now on this too, because a lot of kids will look at maybe a vlog of somebody or even of you and be like, "All this guy does is party and chill."
It's like maybe that's when
what are people out there missing that you do that they don't see? Like,
well, they definitely don't see the fact that like vlogging and podcasting involves a shitload of like, number one, like coming in here. If I want to do one interview, it's like that's easily. Well, number one, I'm not going out at all that night, because I'm going to be busy doing all this shit and stuff. So it's like I don't chill with girls that much because of it and shit. Like they see the vlogs or like they hear us talking on the podcast and they see like the really fun parts, because that's what I choose to put out there like that. But there's a shitload of time that's just spent sitting in front of the computer. Or even for me, it's like, you know, I need to stay up on the news to like a different level than the average person, because it's like I'm not trying to be reposting a meme 3 days after everybody else. You know, like I need to be on Twitter all day, every day, because I need to know exactly what's going on. And that's actually like little things that mean a lot to me or that matter to me, like reading all the important articles that come out for the day.
It did surprise me about you, the number of sources you pull from too, because I feel like I just kind of like let Twitter and Reddit kind of combine to make this mashup of whatever, because I let other kids on Twitter who I trust read all those like hip hop sites or whatever, and then the shit kind of trickles down to me. But you're really in there on the ground level.
I just want to be comprehensive in like my understanding of the culture, I guess. So like, to me, it's like I need to read a bunch of different websites. I need to have a YouTube feed where I watch a lot of videos.
Yeah, so the kids aren't seeing the uploading and the research and the editing and the time.
Do you think that ties into like you having a knowledge on like a whole bunch of rappers that aren't necessarily like at their peak yet, and like you getting in on people kind of early?
I mean, I want to know. You know, it bothers me when I don't know about shit early, when it's stuff that actually matters. You know, like I really want to be ahead of the curve, and so like to me, I don't know. People ask me that shit all the time. They're like, "Oh, how'd you know Lil Yachty was popping before before you did that interview, I'm like, bro, everybody knew he was popping.
Yeah.
But when I say everybody, I mean like me and the people around me. Like it was super obvious to do a Lil Yachty interview, even though a lot of people are trying to keep up. We're like, how'd you know how to do that? I'm like, man, you're lame as hell. You don't deserve to be in this position if you didn't know that Yachty was popping at that time. You fucking weirdos. Yeah,
exactly. He could have did that interview like 2 or 3 months before.
I was talking. Yeah, that's what's crazy. I was talking to him 2 months before the interview, and he was showing me love. Like when I looked at my text with him the other day, and he's like the most normal ass kid ever. Like when I first started talking to him, and I'm sure he's still mad cool when I see him in interviews and stuff. But he was not giving off a successful vibe at all.
You didn't always have this No Jumper platform. Like No Jumper had to start from ground zero, so you had to get that first interview. You always talk about how Xavier Wolf was kind of your friend.
Right.
How did you guys meet?
Okay. Well, I just want to say this is that No Jumper. Like the reason why people get real confused about why like there's an ASAP Yams tweet about No Jumper and shit is because originally there's this kid George. We were gonna start like a kind of high quality like hip hop blog where we basically post like writing about rap, right? Okay. And that like I wasn't really writing that much at the time, but he was doing the writing, and he was also trying to like assemble like different people to write for the site. I was basically like financing it, like the creation of the site, and like told him that I had business knowledge how to do this. He ended up kind of like falling off and not really being into it after like 2 months. But then I always had the URL. And then when we start, and he did a really good job for that time period, even though he didn't like stick with it, whatever. But I mean, it's hard to keep writing for free all the time when you fucking aren't getting anything for it. But then at a certain point, I wanted to start the podcast. Oh, the reason why and I just used the name basically. We came up with that name together. It's from a Gucci Mane lyric. But Xavier, the way that happened, I was sitting right here actually. Like I was sitting here, and my homeboy Tony Maloof, he came through, and he was like, "Yo, you gotta listen to this kid Bones," and he was playing me Bones and shit, and I liked it. And then I ended up getting in touch with Elliot on Twitter, and then Elliot came through the store with Chris Travis, Eddie Baker, and Xavier and Bones, and we were all just kicking it with him. And then Xavier was the one who was just like, yo, I want to get a bike. And he was dating this chick who lived like around the corner. So he would come over every day when she went to work, and he would just come here and sit here and smoke and hang out with me while I was working, you know? So then like me, him, and Began, we just became really good friends. Like, and when I met him, I didn't even give a shit about his raps. Like, to be honest, like I really, really love Xavier's music, and I like his music better than like probably almost like him as a rapper. I like more than like almost everybody in the underground, but I didn't know anything about his music really at that time. It took me a little bit of time to get into it. And also this is like almost 2 years ago. So it's like he didn't have that much stuff out as he does now, but he just wanted to ride bikes. So we helped him with a bike, and we would be riding together all the time and stuff. And then when I started doing the BMX podcast, I was like, I did one with Stevie Churchill and Brandon Beacon, and then the next one was Xavier, and the Xavier one did like a lot of views in comparison to any of the BMX ones I did around that time. And I just saw like the potential. Like Xavier's is on the BMX channel.
Okay.
But then at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I want to just do another podcast as non-BMX because I just have a lot of interests there outside BMX. So like the first person who's ever on No Jumper was this dude Ryan Dennehy, who's like a tech guy. He owns like a tech company, or works for some big ass company in the Bay. And so that was my first one. And then I got like Ain't Nobody Cool, like those dudes, just because I was friends with them. I just happened to meet them and I liked their brand or whatever. And then that was what was in my head. I was like, if I can get those dudes, I know I can get them. And then I can get the Shop Gene girls because they're friends with them. And then if I get them, I'm sure I could branch out to something else from there. So then like I got like a dude who had just been tattooing me. I'm like, wow, he's got 20,000 on Instagram, so I'm going to interview him. And then like Puya had seen the Xavier interview, so he reached out and he was like, yo, I think you did a really good job with that. I want you to be my first interview. So like I just started like connecting all these little dots of like, oh, like I could get him. And I was friends with Ned, so I did like Ned interview, and I did, you know, just barely had any kind of connections, but I managed to sort of like spin it until I like had more and more. And even little things like my friend Trev, he rides on some shit, and he is friends with Shane Gonzalez. They grew up together from Midnight Studios, and so I would just hit up Trev. Like I saw that Shane and Ian Connor were in LA, and I just hit up Trev. I'm like, yo, hit up Shane and Ian and see if they're down to do the interview in a few days. And Trev's like, they want to do it in 3 hours. I'm like, God damn it. All right, let's do it. Yeah. But that's like, I was just finding every little tiny, like, I didn't know Shane and I didn't know Ian Connor. I didn't have any kind of like even close connections to them at all. But Ian Connor knew about Xavier Wolf and was friends with him. So I was able to just somehow get my way in there. But, you know, it's not like I had a lot of a lot of advantages aside from just
And people probably don't think about the times where you're reaching out to guys and
Hell
you're getting no reply.
tons always. Yeah,
You're always taking shots.
I don't do it that much anymore, to be honest, because I have so many people that hit me up. But I mean, in the beginning, yeah, I sent tons of emails, and some of them worked. You know, like people you hit up on Twitter, and it's still even to this day, like I will tweet at somebody trying to get an interview and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I mean,
are there guys you've hit up and then they've like just not replied, and then later they came back to you and been like, I want to do this, like without even realizing you hit them up?
I think that's probably happened. Yeah.
So
how do you take? I mean, you don't feel personal about it. Obviously.
You can't take anything personal in this shit, and you probably are best off not trying to be friends with everybody. Either.
Wait, we never covered why the Yams tweet happened. He just why did he tweet that?
He just like at that era of like 2010 to maybe 2012, before like Rocky really blew up and Yams was like out of this fucking solar system and had New York Times articles being written about him. Yams was just Eastside Stevie, like dude on Twitter, funny as fuck, from Harlem, and we would just, I don't know, like everybody who was sort of wrapped up in the like Tumblr rap writing community or whatever, like knew Yams is basically like the king of it. And he was mad cool. Like I could tweet at him, he followed me, we would just talk about shit here and there. And like, I don't know, like he got turned on to it from the other dude that I was working with too, George. Like he fucking showed the blog to Yams, and Yams was fucking with it. So he just was showing love or whatever. But it's funny because if I'd been a little smarter and I started the podcast then, I probably would have a Yams interview. So
yeah.
But I wasn't when I think about it now too, I'm like, I'm so glad that I did the BMX thing for 10 years before I started fucking with rappers and doing all this kind of shit, because now I know how to move. Like I learned how to not act in public, because like when I first got into BMX in the industry, somebody would talk shit about me, fade when I see him, and you cannot act like that when you're in a real industry. And BMX is just not like considered acceptable or whatever for you to go run up on somebody and smack somebody in public. And
can we give a story that someone said something, you went and beat him up?
Yeah, let's go. It's just like back in the day in New York, and this is like within like a year and a half, 2 years, and like to come up my BMX website when I started that, which we didn't even really talk about that, but there was this one dude. I went to the Brooklyn Banks, and I was meeting up with my friend Black Man, aka Desmond Rhodes, and he had hit me up earlier in the day. He's like, "Yo, son, you go Sprocket? Like, can you bring me a Sprocket?" So I bring him a Sprocket, like a spare bike part that I had just sitting around. And so I'm sitting there at the Banks, like whatever. It's a totally average day, hanging out with my friend, riding around, and he's putting the Sprocket on his bike or whatever. And I see like a little crew of kids sitting over there, not talking to us or whatever. And I'm kind of like brand new to even being well known or whatever. I didn't think twice about it. But then I get home, and the anonymous comments are like, "Oh, you a bitch ass piece of shit, sucking Black Man's dick, blah blah blah," talking all this shit.
On what? On your website?
Yeah, and the anonymous comments on the website, because they had seen me giving my friend a bike part. And that pissed me off, because nobody could have possibly known that I was there hanging out with my friend unless they were there. So I knew it was like one of these 10 kids, but I hadn't even really given a fuck about who the kids were. But so then I go and I start looking at the IP addresses, and I matched the IP address to some other things that this other dude who had been trying to run another website had been saying. So it was some dude that was jealous of me or whatever. I didn't say anything to him. But then when I seen him, I beat the brakes off him real bad. And it was fucked up too, because he got hit by a car like a couple months before, so he had like a fractured skull. And so I beat him up. I put him in the hospital again, because like partially because he already had that injury. So that was like, but then there was even that dude, like nobody knew that dude, but a lot of people would not fuck with me in the industry because they were like, "Oh, he's a fucking psycho." Like,
did he press charges?
No, he wasn't that stupid, but fucking I don't know, it's just like crazy shit like
that stupid.
But either way, it's just like, I had to figure out. I'm glad I figured that out at that time, because it's like I'm glad that I can be in the industry, in the music industry to a certain extent, and know how to move and know that like and not beating people up is just one of many things. But even like when I'm tweeting and I know what I can and can't say,
and also you don't want to run up on a wrong nigga and get shot too.
That's true. That was not in my head at that time.
Yeah, of course. But I meant now.
Yeah.
When you start, when you start a BMX website, how do you drive traffic to it?
So my whole thing was that I was playing online poker, and I was doing that 10, 12 hours a day, every day. And then, when you're doing that.
Can you talk about how much you made off of that, like in a year?
A lot. Six figures.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I was doing that from.
6 figures means $100,000, by the way. Like
I don't know why you're looking at me.
If it was $200,000, he would say $200,000.
Okay.
You guys are looking at
it was
me?
less than $200,000 on average. Yes, that's true. It's very good.
I'm saying 6 figures does not mean like.
Okay, but if it was $400,000, I would still not say $400,000.
Yeah,
You're right. I might say like.
Yeah, you would.
Less than $500,000. You're right. Yeah,
about $500,000.
But I mean, I was doing good for a while there.
Yeah, that's great.
And then, but I was also like, I had street money from the fucking scamming shit. To be honest.
Wait, can we talk about how much scamming brought in or no?
6 figures.
What?
Well, I already said that in the text interview. I said I had $100,000 under my bed, so whatever. I'll stick with that. But I was doing good with both of those. But then I started playing poker, and then the thing when you're playing poker is that number one, it's a horrible way of life. Like you're sitting in front of a computer 10 hours a day. There's no good way to
Smashing
spin that.
energy
You got
drinks.
you got a jug of piss under your desk because you can't stand up. You got to pee in the jug because as you have 8 tables going, 12 tables going, you can't just walk away from it. You walk away, you're losing money with every single hand you miss, and you only have like 10, 15, 20 seconds to respond to every single hand. So every online poker player got a jug of piss under their desk. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
And so, you know, it just is a shitty way of life. It sucked. But the one good thing about it is that I had a shitload of time online, so I was smart enough to be like, oh, like I'm gonna look at things online, and I was looking at this BMX message board, and I was looking at this rap website. Now, right, it's like the first real hip hop blog in my opinion, and I just saw what SK was doing now, right, and I'm like, oh man, like I could take that exact format and run a website exactly like that, but about BMX, because this is 2006. This is right when people started putting videos on YouTube and MySpace and really putting online content out that was pretty decent quality. I just realized like, oh, like I could fucking just aggregate all this bullshit. And so I just started doing that, and it was weird though, because it's like it fully took my attention away from poker and away from doing illegal shit where I was just doing it like crazy, making no money. It's just like,
did you always know like how you're gonna monetize that website? What did you think the way, or would you just think I'm gonna do this and see what happens?
Because I didn't understand at all like how online advertising worked, and nowadays it's kind of obvious. Like if a kid starts a YouTube channel, it's super easy. You run YouTube ads, you make merch, you do all that shit. At the time, like you start a blog in 2006. This is like early days of like monetizing the internet. So it took me a while to figure it out and everything. But then once I did, like I had BMX companies giving me, you know, $300 a month or whatever to like be able to buy a package of ads. And like as soon as I quit playing poker, like literally withdrew every single dollar I had in my account because I was making $2,000 a month off the BMX website. I was like, I got enough to live right here, so I fuck poker. Even though I was making a lot more from it, I'm gonna just sit with however many dollars in the bank, and I'm gonna make this $2,000 a month, and I'm gonna figure out the rest of the shit and figure out how I can actually do well with this. And
because it was more fulfilling.
Yeah, it was just like the difference in how I felt sitting there playing poker, which I did love at first. I loved playing poker at first, and I still will sit there and watch videos or read an article about poker sometimes because I really do think it's an amazing game. But it wasn't what I was in love with. And BMX and creating content online, it just soon, like, it felt so right. Like, this is what I need to be doing. I need to be writing. I need to be putting shit out there and promoting it via social media. Like, this is me. This is
if
what
we
I was
went to
born
Vegas today, and would you sit down at the poker table and play for like 12 hours and make money? Or?
No way.
So it's always online.
It was. I went to like a couple casinos, like just for fun.
And how'd you do?
Fine, but not
anywhere.
You got to think of it like this: if you're playing in a casino, you might play 25 hands in an hour at a table, whereas a single online poker table, you might play 60 to 100 hands in an hour, and then you're playing 8 tables at once. So I was playing 1,000 hands in an hour probably, versus online or in real life, you might play 25 hands an hour. So it's not even in the same ballpark in terms of if you just want to see a lot of flops and be as profitable as possible. Now, you do have some advantages playing in real life. You can get tells on people. You can see when somebody's drunk, when somebody's acting crazy, whereas tells are hard to come by online unless you're running the software that tells you about everybody's percentages and all this shit. But it's just playing in real life don't do it for me. Honestly, I know a lot of people like to play blackjack and shit. I don't really fuck with any of that because it's like you are going to lose long term no matter what.
We're going to Vegas soon. You want to come?
In a month.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Vegas for the vlog.
I've never been to Vegas either. So
and I want to know like what our trip is going to be like. That's what I'm trying to find out right now.
Probably mostly like drugs and girls. But I would sit down and I would play like no limit poker for 2-3 hours just for the fuck of it.
I hate going to Vegas with a dude and he's like, all right, see you guys later.
No, yeah, I'm not. Because the whole thing for me too is that I just don't find it that entertaining. Like I already know so much about poker that at a certain point I just got bored with playing it online all the time because it's like I already know too much about this.
Did you get bored with BMX?
No, but the interesting thing about it is that I was probably like on the verge of quitting when I started the website. Not because I wanted to, but because I had been hurt so much for like 2 years. I had such a bad string of injuries where I broke my leg and my ankle at the same time. I cracked my fucking kneecap. I broke my hand on this kid's head. I just had so many fucking injuries in a row that I couldn't ride my BMX bike for almost 2 years. And right before I started that website where it started to like pop off, I had been thinking to myself like, man, like, I'm 22. Like maybe I'm not gonna ride BMX forever. Like it was the first time I'd ever even considered that. Like maybe I should just stop because this is working out so badly for me. Maybe I should just make a fresh start and like do something else. But then the website thing happened and I was like, oh man, thank God. Like, but I never ever thought that I would even like present myself as a BMX rider. I never thought I would do a trick on the internet because I was like, I want to be the guy who
like behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I mean that probably was a pretty good idea because when I did put out videos of myself finally like it was weird because like I had so much love, but also so much hate. You know, it's like, which is fine either way. But
so then we started talking about No Jumper, but how do you sponsor your first BMX rider?
it was always like from the beginning. I just kind of realized like with the BMX website, like like if I meet somebody and they're really dope, like I can film with them and give them shirts and give them stickers and like help promote them, and then they get bigger, and then I get somebody to work with that I could film or I could work with, and it just always kind of made sense. Like shout out to Jake Seeley. I feel like he was probably like the first dude that I kind of co-signed and shit, or it's like there's always just been like people around me, because especially because like you ride BMX, like you get used to it at a young age that you hang out with people that are young. Like for me, like I hang out with 21, 22-year-olds all the time, and people sometimes will comment like, how the fuck are you hanging out with someone 10 years younger than you? Number one, I'm a fucking kid, so it just makes sense to me to be. I'm hanging out with Began because me and Began are like
the same.
And also it's like he's been hanging out with me every day for 3 years, so he knows. Yeah. He has grown up a shitload because of that. I don't like hang out with him and feel like there's a huge rift between us in age. The only thing I would say is just experience, where it's like I have friends that had never fucked a girl with a condom and then start hanging out with me around all the time, and I'm like, eventually me saying shit to him like, you are gonna fucking ruin your life. Like you are not smart enough. You cannot do this. And then like eventually they'll smarten up or whatever. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I know you're not perfect at all. You've never worn a condom. But it's like little things like that, or even like drugs. Like to a lot of my they're 18, they start hanging out with me, and they like they do coke one time, and then I realize like a week later, like, you did it 4 times this week, and I got to sit down with them and be like, to a certain extent, just because I have the experience to know better. I'm like, listen, like, you keep doing it like this, like you're not gonna come out of this all right. And like I feel like to a certain extent, when you G-check a kid and you tell them like what's really up, like make a big thing out of it, that they're gonna listen to you to a certain extent, Yeah,
you're monetizing these kids, but you're not like getting like insanely rich off of it in a sense, and they're also getting a ton of benefit because you have kids flopping at your house for like very low rent. And
they don't pay rent. I have a big ass house where all my friends stay with me for free. Yeah. And like, I get some advantage of it because they rep my brand and everything, but they get to stay with me for free.
And they get videos done.
I'm buying them food. I'm promoting them like crazy. All my friends, like a lot of like Connor came and like had 200 Instagram followers, and he comes and stays with us for a month and he leaves with 20K. Or like Stevie has almost like 300,000 Instagram followers.
He doesn't even run his own page.
Well, he does kind of now, but when I first started hanging out with Stevie all the time, he wouldn't do it, and I was like, I was filming him, so I'm like, just give me your password. I'll post these fucking Instagram clips for you because you won't do it yourself, But
Stevie's the best rider in the world, right?
I wouldn't say that, but I would say that he's like probably one of the most, he's probably like top 3 most popular, and he's one of the best riders in the world for sure. He's really, really good.
No, you know what? Like, people, I don't know if they have this perception of you or not, but you really are a fucking good dude. Honestly, like I don't know, you're kind of an asshole, but you really are a good dude. Like you take care.
I would say there's gray areas.
No, but as far as like taking care of your people and taking care of your friends, you don't give a fuck about most girls, but like the way you are with like us as friends, and like I don't think I've ever been out with you and you didn't like take up the tab for like getting food or like fucking whatever. Like,
now I'm gonna be held to that. No, but it's like
you're just a genuine dude.
Well, if I go out to eat with a bunch of my friends and they don't have any fucking money and I'm sitting over here doing good, then like it ain't to spend $50 on.
I mean, it sounds like that, but regular people don't do shit like that. They're like, "Oh, fuck you, starve over there, then, buddy."
Really? Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know.
That's the thing. A lot of times, like people who are selfish won't get that far.
Yeah,
like generosity will actually get you farther than like trying to like if you're in save a dollar mode rather than like let's go invest in something, invest in people, invest in friendships, invest in this shit. And
seriously,
like Adam's always done that, and it's interesting because like I don't want to get too therapeutic and stuff like that, but I've seen it with different guys. Like you can go different ways, like. When you have some kind of trauma that happens in your childhood, maybe you can channel into like rage and anger, and all of a sudden you're in jail from like for assault, or you can channel into like profitable business ventures and different ways to make money. It seems like
you got to train your brain.
If your safety was threatened at a small age and you realize I'm never going to be safe, I'm the only person that can protect myself. I got to go get money. I got to take care of my people. Do you think that's in you at all?
Yeah, because like I never even in my whole life I never even considered that I might have a job or that I might like be able to have like a legitimate career or anything. And never, I'm talking when I was 13, 14, I was like, I'm gonna fucking hustle. Like I'm gonna figure something out. Like it never even crossed my mind, which is weird. My parents were talking to me about a job my whole life, like trying to figure out what I should be doing with myself and everything, and it just never really. It never processed in my brain like that was even an option. And like it's crazy for me because like so many things in my life are really like products of people telling me I can't do shit. Like I remember my mom telling me my whole life like you're gonna have to get a job one day, everybody has to get a job one day, and I just told her like no, I'm not doing it. And then you know, like still to this day, probably I'm kind of like trying to prove her wrong. I remember when I got real serious with the BMX website, this is what happened, is that I was sitting online. I've been doing it for about a year, and I didn't have any advertising or anything. And this dude, Rich Hirsch from Low Tech Shoes, he hit me up and he was just like, yo, like I want to advertise on your website. And I was like, all right, I think the first thing I asked for was like $150 a month. And he was like, all right, like, can I give you 10 months for the year? And I'm like, yeah, all right. And I got that check for $1,500, and I was tripping because I'd never gotten money through anything besides illegal shit and online poker, which felt illegal. Like, you know, it didn't feel like I was above, like doing something noble at that time. And I got $1,500, and I'm like, motherfucker, he just paid like a couple months of my rent at this time, you know? And then like, but the weird thing was that the next day I had to go on vacation with my family. This is like, I've been on vacation with my family like 2 times in my adult life. And the one time was a year ago. This other time was about 10 years before that. And I just like went to Florida with my parents. I didn't really have good internet access or anything like that. But I was there, and this is the thing, is I had all those injuries and shit, so I got real fat. I was like 280 pounds. I'm like 220 right now, to put in comparison.
Shit.
And I was there, and I just realized, I'm like, this is my opportunity to like fucking make something of myself with this website. And my mom and my girlfriend at the time kept making fun of me for being fat. So I'm like, and also I'm going to prove these 2 fucking chicken heads wrong. And I'm going to get home, and I'm going to fucking work out, and I'm going to lose all this weight. 6 months later, I was booming, making like kind of a lot of money. Like in my opinion, it was kind of a lot of money for a website, and I had lost like 60 pounds. So
let me ask you a question then. Let's talk about girls.
Okay, great. Yeah, here we go.
What was your longest relationship?
Man, the bitch who fucked me up was
This is the one that started it all.
yeah, it was when I was in high school. There was like a girl that was like this goth girl that I was totally like, I just wanted to be with her so bad. For some reason I was just completely convinced, and we were like friends, like good friends, sort of like we'd become friends from sitting to each other in school. And I just like took up the task, like, yo, I gotta win her over. So I just like, it took me months to get her to kiss me, you know? And like, but I'm 15, 16, like putting in work to get that. And then like we were together for like 2 years, and then she really fucked me up because she dumped my ass like as soon as we graduated, you know? And I really didn't want to break up with her. But so what did I do? I went and become a savage. I started fucking a bunch of girls.
This is when you're 18?
Yeah. And then I fucked her, took her virginity. And then like,
Lit.
but like, I don't know.
Oh, you didn't take her virginity? You didn't fuck her the whole
She
time?
wouldn't let me fuck her all through high school because she was like on some other shit. Then she like, she starts partying. And then I wasn't like partying, but I was like hanging out with girls and like fuck some other girls and shit. And then I took her virginity too, so I won.
Did you get girls when you were fat?
Well, like me being like fat is like for like a year or two when I'm like 21, 22, 23-ish. You know, that's like when I actually got fat. But I was
like 3 years.
I always felt like I was fat in high school, but I look at photos of me now, I'm like, oh my God, I had like a tiny little belly, but I was actually like really fucking skinny. Yeah. But I felt like I was fat because I didn't have a 6-pack, you know?
Yeah.
And like,
true.
I don't know, but like with her, like she dumped my ass and just kind of fucked me up in the head. And then like right after that, like very soon after, I got this other girlfriend for about a year. And that was weird because that was the first girl that ever proposed like, oh, like an open relationship. Because she already knew that I was going to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. So she was like, I want to be with you so bad that, you know, if you need to do shit with other girls or whatever, I understand. And so like I was with her for about a year, and then she fucking fucked me up in the head too. So.
Yeah, open relationships are funny because you always think the guy's like, I'm gonna go get laid so much, and then the girl's out there fucking everybody.
Yeah, I don't think that was it wasn't the case at all. I don't think she fucked anybody, but I was definitely doing my thing.
I missed it though. Did you get girls when you were fat?
I mean, I had a girlfriend that was like for like a year and a half or 2 years that I was fat. So when I was in high school and stuff, I was doing fine, but I mean, I wasn't like, I don't know. I was like, I wanted like a girlfriend at that time. Like, but I don't know. It's like both of those 2 girls fucking me up in the head, and then also combined with the fact that I was always hanging out with older BMX dudes, and the dudes I hung out with were the biggest savages ever when it came to chicks. So it's like they taught
worse than you.
At that time, yeah. Like they were doing wild ass shit, and those are the people I was hanging out with like all the time from the age of like 14 to like 22 or something. So it's like I like when I look at it now, like. They are the ones who like fucked me up in the head kind of too, because they just like made me think it was super normal to be like doing too much, which is all right because, you know, it definitely helped me to like get my skill set together. But I mean, you know, when I look at it now and like my ability to like be in a normal relationship, I'm like, damn, like.
See, because like I'm not trying to dive too deep into your brain here, but I feel like you almost have this perception that like most girls aren't shit, or that, or like not to take them seriously. And it's like, where do you think you got that part from? I mean, because like you guys tell me crazy stories about like fucking, I don't know, you guys like fucking running a train on somebody's wife, or it's fucking like you.
That wasn't me. That was a few of my other friends, but that did happen.
Or like, you know, like you fucked one of your friends' girlfriends, and then I don't know, just crazy. You guys always,
well, number one, I would never lie to one of my homies about anything ever. So if I did fuck my, I don't know what the hell you're talking about with me fucking my friend's girlfriend. That didn't happen.
I wasn't saying anything specific. I just meant like you guys are always saying like crazy stories about you guys. Like,
I'm not saying that I think girls are not shit. It's just that I realize that girls do crazy ass shit, and I know a lot of guys, you included, where we were having a conversation recently, and you were like, talking about this one girl. You're like, yeah, you know, she's all right, she's a good girl, blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, think about it.
Yeah,
we only know the shit that she tells us, and we think that she's buck.
Yeah.
So think about all the shit that she doesn't tell anybody that she keeps close to her chest. Now, maybe she did tell you or I like every single crazy thing she ever did. Fine. But I'm just, the only point I was making is like, you have no reason to take her word at face value.
No,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's like, that is part of it, is that I've seen the wildest shit. Also, like, not to mention, it's like, I've been going on BMX trips since I was like 21, 22, seeing my heroes that I grew up watching BMX videos, and all of a sudden we're in a strip club, they're married, they got 3 kids, and they're eating pussy on stage at the club or some shit like that. Like that shit, when you're young and you see that and you realize that like, oh, like the institution of marriage really don't mean shit because all these fools get down.
Yeah.
You know, it'll have an effect on
I'm going to try to jump in real quick and maybe help you, maybe not. If you want to take it, you can take it, or
let's
not.
say it, yeah.
But I feel like you definitely set yourself up with a savage type brand with women. And women can also be savages as well. So you guys meet because both know what you're getting into. Like a girl who's got her shit together, is like a boss, like needs to be like respected and treated well, and has all that stuff going on. Normally won't be going for you unless she's trying to like veer off her normal path.
She's trying to go to like a bad boy.
She'll know what she's getting into.
I mean, if a girl wants like the most boring, normal, like average boyfriend scenario, she probably would be able to like look at my podcast or some shit and tell that that's not necessarily gonna be easy for me to get into that.
But you're willing to admit there's girls out there that like you, because Haasman was like, you normally think that girls aren't shit or whatever, but like, there's girls out there who are doing.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I have a lot of
Jules. You got tons of respect.
Yeah, or like Aaron, or like I have a lot of like close female friends that I talk to all the time. That if you were to ask them, like, is Adam disrespectful to women? They would be like, Adam is realistic with women. Like he knows exactly what's going on when like a girl is fucking, like I just know the game and I know what chicks are doing, and it's like, but that doesn't stop me from having like extremely respectful relationships with girls that I have respect for. And I don't look down on girls that I'm friends with for doing hoe ass shit. And I have a lot of friends, girls who they fuck dudes for money for a living, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm proud of them.
We're also some hoe ass niggas.
That's what I'm saying. So is like, that I don't judge anybody. People will be like, oh, like how do you feel about you're like hanging out with this girl and she gets fucked for a living? And I'm like, bro, like I sold drugs and did fraud and fucking did all kinds of crazy shit when I was a kid.
That's all,
I can't judge anybody. And also, like, this is the direct comparison. I know this girl right now that I kick it with once in a while, and she stripped for like a day or two and didn't do it. She was telling me how much money she was making doing it. She was like, oh, I made like $400 these 2 different days that I did it. She works a full-time job, 40 hours a week or more, doing some, super shitty stuff that she probably don't want to do. Not shitty stuff, but just an average fucking job. She probably makes $400 a week, $500 a week. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sit there and judge her for not optimizing her hourly rate. Like, I don't know what I do have some respect for the fact that she's going out making like a super honest living. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I do think like, damn, if that was me, I would be stripping and I would be hoeing and I would be making racks, because to me, it's like, the most shameful thing in the world is to fucking waste your time for money that ain't worth it, So it's funny for me, like looking at her and imagining her scenario, and she's real sure about it. Like, no, I'm not gonna strip. That's like not me. That's not me. And I'm like,
that's commendable though.
Yeah, it's commendable in a way, but it's also kind of like, damn, like I don't. If I were you, I might be stripping.
I mean, I guess to everybody, money isn't everything,
No, totally, yeah. And if you
this person would rather have her self-respect and rather be able to sleep at herself at night.
Yeah, and a lot of people I could totally understand. Like, I don't think I could fuck someone for money either. Like, so I totally get it. But that's why I'm not gonna look down on a girl for doing it.
You would never do porn.
I mean, I've thought about it, but it's like
selfie style vlog porn.
Yeah, I don't know, because like the thing is that I would never do it like the way normal dudes do it, like where it's like, oh, you get $400 and you're some guy and you gotta fuck for 5 hours on camera. But I did have somebody like hypothetically be like, oh, would you do a porn with this somewhat famous girl that you know, if you got 25 grand each, and I'm sitting there like, damn, 25
That
grand.
was a real proposal.
I don't know if it was like a real proposal, but somebody suggested it as in like, oh, this is like a realistic amount that maybe you and her could get. And I was just thinking about it like what the fuck am I saying no to 25 grand for? Like, I don't know. That was weird just thinking about like that amount of money, because I would never do it for $1,000. But
This is funny now because you just went back to what you were just saying. You were saying if I was that girl, I'd definitely be out there stripping and hoeing or whatever. So now you are put in that position exactly like of that girl.
Right.
If that offer
but a lot
is
more
really,
money.
but if that offer is really real, then it's like you're already so much out there.
Yeah. It's like
but there is something in you that is kind of holding you back. You know,
it's just being bashful because like I don't want my mom to know that I was fucking a girl on camera or some shit, because that's kind of you know, there are little things like that. But I mean, would I care about you guys seeing it or all the fans seeing it? No, I wouldn't give a fuck.
We've already seen it.
Yeah.
Real talk. But I mean, I wouldn't give a fuck about. And also, it's like I have to know at the end of the day, if I did a sex tape with some poppin' Instagram model, then I'm gonna get way bigger from that. It would be huge news. It would be all over the place, probably.
But then also, you would also probably mess up some other business opportunities or something.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Like,
There's maybe some like corporate sponsor would want to fuck with me right now that wouldn't want to fuck me after that. I don't know. I mean, I've considered it, but realistically, is there almost any chance I would do it? No. It would have to be like a crazy amount of money, and even then, maybe like if my parents got hit by a bus while they were together, then maybe.
I feel like every girl that I've asked that question to, like, would you do porn, is like, in the back of their head, they're like, well, if my fucking dad wasn't alive, and yes, I would do it.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's just the number one scare.
I don't know, but no, I probably wouldn't do porn. It's all hypothetical.
Adam22 sex tape coming soon.
You're probably trying to. You're still talking about girls here, so we're gonna wrap that up.
No, I got one more question. Well, not a girl question actually. Maybe I'm switching, but like you seem so. When the camera gets on, like in your vlogs and in the podcast, you just fucking go. Like you have a lot of energy, and it's almost like stored up energy because you can be chilling at the party or chilling whatever, smoking weed and hanging out, and then like when it's time to work though, you get to work. My question is like, have you ever gotten depressed and had weeks, months, or whatever where you couldn't get out of some kind of funk, or you just work yourself out of it?
It's been a long time, but like the one that like really kind of changed everything for me in my life, honestly, was like there was one girl that I was seeing maybe 5-6 years ago, and we were together every day for months, like 4 months or some shit. And I went on this trip, and I was gone for a month. I come back, she's basically like still fucking with me, but also like with some other guy, right? So like, I don't know, like seeing her like dump me for like another dude, basically, it just kind of fucked me up in the head, and kind of like, it was weird. It almost felt like my ego got like smashed down into nothing for a little bit, because previously I had just felt like I was capable and I knew who I was. And then that one thing, like I don't even think it was about all that. I think it was the fact that I just moved to California too, because I wasn't that crazy about her until she fucking decided she wanted to fuck some other guy. Like I didn't really give a fuck about it that much until then. But I basically just got into this weird funk where I was like laying in bed for like a couple weeks. Not like laying in bed. I was still going and doing stuff and everything, but I wasn't my usual self. And then so Alfredo, actually, who's like my right hand man on mad shit, he like saw me in a bad state, and he basically was like, yo, like come with me, like I'll take you out to these clubs in Hollywood and stuff, because I'm brand new to LA, so I didn't know about like all the different places to go and shit like that. And so he's bringing me out, throwing girls at me. All of a sudden I'm drunk, making out with girls in supper club or some shit. And he basically just like helped get me out of that mind frame. But then like as I got out of it, it was like my whole ego was gone. Like everything, I basically just realized like I've been living my life one way up till this point, and now I feel like I'm completely back to square one. Like obviously I had the BMX website, I had on some shit, but I just realized I'm like, I can't just keep sitting around and letting this shit fall together by chance. Like I need to wake up every fucking day and have a goal in mind, and I need to sit here and I need to conceptualize what I'm gonna be 10 years from now. And that what I am right now is everything that I thought about at that time. Was like, I need to find a way. I need to find
fucking awesome.
Skadarbin.
I was like, I need a shop. I need like a physical outpost for what I'm doing. I need.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
I need a way to branch out into the mainstream. Like I need a way to put BMX on a different level and show how cool what I'm doing is. I need to turn on some shit into a brand that actually like represents how dope I know BMX is and my culture is and shit like that. And I don't know, and even like Alfredo, when he started working with me, like he basically took over like the business side of shit with the come up, and he was handling advertising sales, and he was handling like relationships with the advertisers and the stuff that I can't really do, because I can't really be the one talking to the advertisers. Like I'm not that kind of person. So you know, it's like at that moment, like just having my whole fucking ego sort of like obliterated, like gave me the space to look at myself and what I was and be like, no, like as I rebuild myself and I like bring my confidence back up, like I need to like be serious about my life and I need to like, I don't know, it's just.
Was your ego always there? Like at 12, did you think you were special?
No, I didn't have any kind of ego at all until I realized that I was running the best BMX website ever within 6 months of starting it.
So when you're scamming, you got no ego about it. You're just scamming and being
no,
nervous.
What room
and
do you
money.
have an ego when you're just doing some shit, trying to not be high
When you're
profile?
nasty at online poker, don't you kind of feel like I got this cash?
Yeah, I mean, I felt cool. Like, wow, this is dope that I got 100 racks under the bed and that I'm not that I don't have to go work for somebody. And it felt good. But, you know, and I started to feel good about myself. But the lifestyle when you're playing online poker, you're sitting in your fucking room all day. Like, I had a friend.
You're not getting girls off online poker.
No, I was on MySpace trying to make something happen. And it would happen here and there, but it wasn't like that. Like, I had a friend who worked, or not security, but he worked at the door. He was a greeter at Urban Outfitters. I'm talking to him. I realized, like, this dude meets 10 girls a day, and he's, like, having so much fun. He's going to different parties, all this cool shit. I'm like, man, I'm in my room 10 hours a day. Like, I don't even – and even then, I was so – wrapped up in it that if somebody had invited me, like, oh, go to a party or whatever, I would go to the party and be thinking about that other shit the whole time, thinking like I got to get back and make some fucking bread. Because the thing about online poker is really fun, it's really addictive, and it's profitable if you're good at it. So it's like it's not like a normal addiction where you're losing money and you're fucking your shit up. It's like a profitable addiction, but it's also an addiction. It fucks you up in the head to the point where you can't think about anything else.
What did your MySpace look like?
I mean,
I have
it's
old
still
pictures
up,
of
I
his
think.
MySpace.
Yeah, it's still up.
I mean, so you got, is it like, hey, I'm a BMXer, or is it, hey, I'm a, you know,
I don't know if I really would have.
hardcore guy?
It was probably like by the time I stopped using MySpace when I was like 25 or something, it was probably just mostly BMX. I don't know if I ever really put anything about poker on there or anything.
How many followers did you get on MySpace?
I don't know. I was like relatively cracking, but even like I might have been cracking in my mind because I had 4,000, you know, 4,000 friends or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but not like I don't know.
When did you start to realize you were fucking popping in the underground rap scene?
Well, I honestly think like the Ian Connor one was big, the Puya one was big, the Xavier Wolf one was big. But then I went on this tear where I did like Antoine Dixon, Suicide Boys, Tyler Grosso, Getter. Like I just knocked a shitload out that were like really popular ones in a row. And that was maybe 6-8 months ago. And then I don't know, just kind of like around that time was when I started to be like, oh, like when I go places, like normal places, people recognize me. And now it's like, it's way worse than that.
Yeah.
But it was weird because like I started seeing a girl right as all those ones, like she showed up during the Antoine one and fucking, I felt like in comparison to how I feel now, it felt like No Jumper was absolutely nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And like she had to see it too. Like all of a sudden she's seeing all these crazy comments on my Twitter, Instagram, and she's seeing people come up to me all the time in real life and stuff. And now, I don't know, it's crazy though because like the girl I was hanging out with at Day and Night Fest, like I probably maybe had like a couple hundred kids talk to me or come up to me or whatever, and she was tripping out. And I'm telling her, I'm like, yeah, but think about it, like I'm nothing so far. Like I'm actually nothing. I've barely interviewed any fucking mainstream rappers, and still 95%, 99% of the people at this fest have no fucking clue who I am. There's still so far for me to go because, and I don't want to be famous. Like I don't really like love people coming up to me. It's not like I want that so bad, but it's like I want full penetration of my subculture. Shout out to penetration. But I want everybody to know what I'm doing because I want to do an interview with every fucking important person in the scene or whatever.
This might be a little ass kissy.
Okay.
But
I'm used to that from you.
Well, dude, I roast you first and foremost.
It's fine, yeah.
All right, so like it seems pretty visionary to put a podcast that we're just sitting talking on YouTube because everyone who starts a podcast for the most part thinks we're going to put it on iTunes Podcast and SoundCloud. Was it always? Was there a previous model of a podcast that you saw that you really based off of?
Actually, yeah. And that's actually a weird thing to think about is that when I was still living in Long Beach, I tried to do the BMX podcast, and I did one episode with this one guy. Then I did another episode with this other guy. He's like a filmer, very respected, kind of serious, like takes himself sort of serious. And so we did this really amazing interview with him, and it's just audio. I don't think there was video. And then, but he had said, like, I need to hear it before it comes out. I'm going to hit you up, and I want permission for you to put it out or whatever. And so I sent it to him, and he didn't give me permission. And then I didn't do another podcast for like a year and a half, 2 years after that. Like that, I don't know why I let that one thing get in the way of me continue to go, and it held me back by 2 years. Because if I had been doing the BMX podcast during that whole time, I probably like even when I started the BMX podcast, I knew that I was sort of like putting myself into training, and that at a certain point I was going to branch out and do No Jumper or do people outside of BMX. But it's weird when I think about it that dude saying no to that kind of fucked me up, and that's why I would never ever give anybody that kind of right to remove it.
But the visual aspect, you said.
Oh yeah, but that's like I already was doing so much on the BMX YouTube side of things. Like I realized that was really important, that YouTube was going to be huge, and that YouTube was where BMXers were congregating. I realized that in large part because of Adam LZ. Like he showed me how easy it is, or how capable or how possible it is to build a huge following on YouTube that, you know, doesn't necessarily have to give a shit about BMX but cares about you. And I started to see that effect where I put myself in more videos, and I started to realize like, fuck, like I'm building up people that care about me. And then I knew that at a certain point I'd be able to take it outside of BMX and branch out and, you know, make it about other things as well.
Do you think that made it easier for a lot of people to like fuck with No Jumper early on, just because you already like, even though they didn't know it was from BMX or they didn't necessarily know, but they, you know, they could see the numbers. And
yeah, it's a lot easier to respond to somebody's tweet when they have, you know, 20,000 or whatever I might have had at the time, rather than when they have 200, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I mean, that, like, again, like, Xavier did the podcast because he was my homie. And then Puya wanted to do it because he saw the Xavier one. And, like, you know, I was just able to, like, I feel like I would have been able to build it up, too, even if I didn't really have a thing going online. But at the same time, like, people come to the store and it's like they realize, like, oh, this guy is not just a, you know, like even Cardi was just in here and he was like, oh, you do the on some shit too. Like he didn't really fully comprehend that, like these are, it's hard for people to comprehend this shit. I don't hold it.
I forgot who we were interviewing, and they didn't even know what somebody didn't even know really.
All the time people walk in here and they're like, this isn't a bike shop. I'm like, yeah, we talk about it all the time. It's in all the vlogs, but I understand that
it is confusing because when you tweet, you're on some shit.
Yes. Yeah.
So you are a BMX brand as you tweet.
Uh-huh.
But then you're also, that's why No Jumper came to be, because when I see Adam out walking in public, it's like that's what they call him No Jumper.
Sometimes, yeah. Or hey, on some shit.
Hey,
or
No Jumper, yeah.
Well, it used to be the come up all the time.
Hey,
too.
on some shit. What's
it still
up,
is sometimes. It's still like, you're the come up, yeah.
Yeah, so you got like basically 4 people you are.
Yeah, you got 4 different brands.
On some shit, No Jumper, and Adam22.
And you're also just a bitch too on part.
Yeah, there's a hoe ass, head ass. But can I just say this, is that I love my brand name so much.
Yeah.
Like, it would be so easy to get a brand name and not like it. The come up, I started a blog with like 5 minutes thought beforehand, and I was just like called it that because I had a friend that would be like, man, they're just mad at me because I came up. And that was it. I was like starting a blog. I'm called the come up, make fun of him, boom. But I love that name because it just like indicates what happened to me immediately afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
And on some shit was just like my friend Brendan Garone is the singer of this hardcore band Incendiary. He, like, we were just working out together because we lived in Brooklyn together for like 7 years, and like, or not 7 years, but probably 3 years or something like that, 4 years. And like, I was gonna, I just tell this for like posterity's sake, is that when I was starting on some shit, it was supposed to just be like, I had the visionary idea, which ended up, a lot of other people ended up doing this, but I was like, yo, I'm gonna make a bike seat with a pot leaf on it. This is the most cliche idea in BMX now, but at that time, it seemed like such a great idea because there was like a dude making grips with weed leaves on them. And I was like, I could do the same thing with a seat. And I never actually ended up doing it, but that was like why I was like, yo, and I got like a bunch of homies, they all smoke mad weed too. We can just do like a pothead BMX company. And then that's why it's called On Some Shit, because it was just my friend just said it. He's like, you should call it On Some Shit and use the old SSDs, this hardcore band logo, and just make it say OSS. Boom, that was it. And then no Jumper, I just like that name too because it's a Gucci reference. It sounds weird. It's like noticeable. You couldn't mistake it for something else.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like anything else really.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like I mean, you think of the Breakfast Club.
Right.
Is a
pretty
movie.
good name, but also like there's 5 million Breakfast Clubs. Like other radio shows.
Right.
Just because that's kind of like a clear cut.
It's a morning.
Yeah, it's like a morning reference.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty good name, but
good name, but it's just kind of oversaturated.
And it's funny because like No Jumper is almost like bigger than the sum of its parts. You know, like it's like, you know, not just you're on an Adam22 show, you know?
Because in the beginning, it was like a big decision for me to call it No Jumper instead of calling it the Adam22 show. You actually guessed it right there, because I thought about that just because it would be so literal and so like, okay, then people would be running up to me on the street saying, hey, Adam22, which they do sometimes, but it would have made things a little bit more simple. But I just realized, like, if I call it the Adam22 show, I can never, you know, like, House Phone can't do a podcast without me on the Adam22 show, probably. Right. But No Jumper, if I'm gone for a few weeks and you're like, oh, I want to do a podcast, it would make sense. Or God forbid, in the future, I decide I want to sell it or something like that. Like, I just realized that having a real brand name would be a lot more flexible, you know?
Yeah, Kanye probably wouldn't do the Adam22 show, but he heard about No Jumper through a bunch of underground popping guys he's working with or something.
The main thing I realized was, like, I can't put Adam22 on a shirt, but I could put No Jumper on a shirt.
Exactly.
It could be a brand that goes outside of myself. Like, anytime you start a brand, you want to call it something that sounds cool enough that you could put it on a shirt and that it's not going to sound like a brand.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. Totally, I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
What's fucking next? What's the next venture after No Jumper? What do you plan on? Where do you plan on taking No Jumper to?
You know, it's a weird thing is that, like, my whole life I felt like I needed to be doing more, and I wasn't doing like enough. I wasn't doing the stuff that I really wanted to be doing. Mm-hmm. But now I feel like I could do this for 10 years, and I'd probably be pretty happy, like making videos, growing the channel, growing my brand, making merch, making BMX videos. Vlogging is fun as fuck. Like, I don't know. It's like I could definitely see myself 5 years from now being like, no, I need to be doing everything different. This needs to change. I need to be doing this. But for me right now, like, I'm so happy and so content. And I'll say that to some people, and I've said that to girls, and they'll be like, oh, that's sad. That sounds kind of sad that you're complacent. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, everybody else is working towards wanting to be something, and I am completely happy with what I am right now and where my businesses are at. And yeah, I want them to be bigger, but I honestly feel like I could kind of die today, and I'd be like, you know what? I did everything that I needed to do right there.
Yeah. Damn.
I was 22 and I started like that was the first time I said that was the first time I had ego. I was 22. I just realized one day, I'm like, I run the best BMX website in the world, and there's absolutely nobody who could even put together an argument otherwise, you know?
Yep.
And like that gave me a lot of confidence to be like, well, what else could I do? Like, could I create, like, with On Some Shit, it's like I wanted to create the biggest, coolest BMX brand ever. And I feel like, you know, it's completely subjective. I can't say biggest because, like, companies that make a lot of money selling bikes and stuff. But in terms of apparel and stuff, if you were to look at the followers or the sales per year or whatever, it would be pretty hard to draw any other conclusion, you know?
Do you really never see yourself getting married?
I wouldn't say that. I definitely, like...
You said it before.
I fluctuate back and forth, though, between, like, damn, I love being single. I could be single forever. It doesn't fucking matter. Or... damn, if I'm in a relationship, my whole life is a lot more simple. It's like I do want to get into that position, but I don't know. It's like on one hand, I feel like I'm waiting for the right girl that fully just makes me like change my mind and just decide to do that. But at the same time, like I feel like I don't know. It's like I feel like I'm changing so much by the day. Like when I did the Antoine Dixon interview 6-8 months ago, whatever the fuck it was, like I started dating that girl like right around that time. It's like, bro, like I was a different person then. Like I am so different now. And I feel like if you're going to be in a relationship in a lot of ways, it's kind of like unfair to be super serious with somebody and then meanwhile your lifestyle's constantly in flux. And the real thing that fucked it up with that girl was that I'm so singular and so dedicated to what I'm doing that I went on a trip to Argentina for 3 weeks. I get back. She's like, when are we going to hang out? I'm like, well, I got podcasts for the next 6 nights. And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you didn't schedule like one night where you can hang out with me? Because I got home at 10 in the morning. I'm doing 2 podcasts that night. And every other night going forward after that, I'm like, baby, I'm sorry, but I can't. Like, we could do 2 things. You can come to the store and hang out with me while I'm doing it, or I could come to your house after I'm done and crawl into bed with you, and we could cuddle for a few hours before you got to get up and go to work. And she's like, why can't you just not do one of the nights of the podcast? And I'm like, that's not how this goes. Like, I'm not slipping for anybody. Nobody's going to, because like, to me too, it's like what I do is kind of a commodity in a way. There's a lot of fucking people who can do interviews. There's a lot of people who could set up something kind of similar. So I got to wake up every day and go hard as fuck because I'm not trying to let, if somebody else wants to come up in my space, I mean, I don't feel like there's any like close competitors or whatever in terms of what I'm specifically doing, but I'm trying to shit on anybody. I'm trying to do such a good job that anybody who would want to really compete with me is not going to have is going to have a really hard uphill battle. And I want to be able to say that I'm bigger than a lot of people that I look up to right now. Right. You know, I want millions of YouTube subscribers. I want a fucking mansion. You know, I want to do all this shit that like would just be indicative of me just doing a really good job. And I'm not. You know, it's like I can't chill out. Like I can chill out. I love like fucking go to sleep, you know, and fucking sleep for fucking 20 hours straight sometimes because I go so hard. But I mean, I can't put my shit on the back burner. And I don't know, I guess she didn't really understand that. And it's weird too because it's like relationships are about compromise, and I wasn't even giving her a fucking inch of compromise on my part. I realize it's fucked up, but
I mean, this is really interesting.
That's where you got to, that's how you got to the point you're at now.
I got where I'm at by being obsessive and not chilling, you know.
We're seeing a phase of you right now that you just realized you're in this phase. So I'm
in the middle of it right now. I'm in the middle of the fucking tornado, and it's like I just got that father interview. I got the Zero interview. If I go hard and get all these interviews, my shit is gonna be like I would like to sit here and say, yeah, I'm bigger than Breakfast Club. Like I'm bigger than fucking
Trust
I don't
me,
know.
we want that too.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to get that check.
Right, yeah,
yeah.
but and it seems crazy right now.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
Hey,
not really, man.
You know what's crazy too, and I think I met you about 6 to 8 months ago. I met you right
yeah.
when this girl was getting started. We talked about this.
That's true.
You were trying. We were just having like an off-air conversation. Maybe we talked about it on with the Drew Millard interview. But I was asking you about your girl and like what was going on, and you're like, you know, like different types of like cheating or whatever, and you're like, you really were seeing like I gotta stay faithful. Like I'm really trying. It's so hard though. Like, and you were trying to like make this concerted effort because this girl was like. She was like, look, if you want to hook up with me, we got a date. And you're like, all right, let's give it a shot, you know?
No, it wasn't exactly that. It was like way better than that. What happened is that the reason why I started dating her is because I was at a party. Number one, she assumed that I was just going to grab her on New Year's Eve from the airport in Santa Ana.
What?
Because we had been kicking it for a couple of weeks. She didn't ask. She just assumed I was picking her ass up, which I thought was pretty.
So she's like, yeah, I get home at midnight.
I get home at 10:45 on New Year's Eve. Can you pick me up? I'm like, oh my. I don't even say, can you pick me up? She's like, I'll see you there. I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Because for me, I'm trying to go turn up with my friends and shit.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm trying to be a good guy. I'm like, all right, fuck it. You know, I go pick her up. We hang out. We were, you know, it's great to see her. I was like really kind of nuts over her at the time. And then like, we get home to my crib and we're off the malls and fucking she's like, I go smoke a blunt in the bathroom because I didn't want to be like bothering her while I was smoking or whatever because she's passed out and she don't smoke or whatever. My phone is playing music. She goes to turn my phone off and decides like, oh, I'll look through it. I know his code. I fucking seen him put it in. And she just is like, oh, you fucked all these other bitches while I was back at home. And I'm like, yeah, and like whatever. Like we're not officially dating. Like, and that was what was weird about it. She had a heart of gold. I'm like, did you really not think that I was fucking other bitches while you were gone for 10 days? She's like, no, I really didn't think you were. And I'm like. You know, like, fuck, I guess you don't know me then because it's like, unless I have a fucking real, you know, and then we got serious after that, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think she ever realized
the
that.
lines weren't drawn.
And all of a sudden at that point, I'm having girls throwing pussy at me.
This is what I wanted to
It's
say.
hard to say no, you know?
You're
Like,
having a moan right now.
I'm having a moan for sure.
You're having a moan
Off
where,
the malls having a moan.
like,
Yeah.
okay, so let's say this is the entire population of the world from the table to the sign, right? BMX hits about here.
Yeah, yeah.
Music hits about here. Just music.
Right.
You
It's
know?
so much different, yeah.
And
Yeah.
YouTube too, like, so you combine music and YouTube, and now
The BMX pussy was not apparent.
Hell no.
Yeah,
It's
so-
so bad.
Yeah,
It's so dry.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah, so now, you're in like a whole different realm.
Yeah.
you're in the middle of your moan. You're in savage mode. If you're approaching Adam, don't be looking for a relationship right
No,
now.
I wouldn't even say that though, because honestly, I feel like I could meet a girl tomorrow and be in a relationship with her, like
Yeah.
Emily Oberg probably. But like,
Shout out to Emily. We all want you.
no, leave my girl alone. But I don't know, like, you know, you're supposed to laugh when I said leave my girl alone. Now it sounds creepy. Yeah, no, but I'm saying like I feel like I could,
Emily, hit me
bro,
up.
I could easily get in a relationship. It just would have to be the right one. And
No, you
also, it's
couldn't.
like,
No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't.
I don't know. I think I could. And also, I think that a girl who was like on the same page as much as I am would want to do some freak shit with, you know.
What would solidify her as being the right
That's not
the
a
right
relationship.
It's you don't have to be strictly monogamous, right?
I mean, if you want something to work for the distance,
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, you probably should.
But I would love to be the kind of guy, like, you know, we all look at like Jay-Z and Beyonce and we're like, oh, it's so cool that Jay's turning down all this pussy like for Beyonce over the past like however many years. And then you realize he's not. And that even the most successful guy in the world who is seeing the most successful girl, probably the only dream girl that he could ever conceive of, how could he ever do better than her? And he's still going to go fuck a stylist. Future, same shit. So sometimes I think of like, even though I have that fantasy of like, oh man, I could be the best boyfriend in the fucking world, because I know that like if I was a real boyfriend, if I actually decided like this is it, nobody could be a better boyfriend on the face of the fucking planet than me, because when I decide that I want to do something, I just do it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like my whole thing is like that girl I was seeing, I wasn't 100% sure it was the right situation, and then, you know, it's like all of a sudden I'm newly popping and I have girls that are hitting me up that are like literally girls I'm masturbating 6 months before that.
so you jack off.
Like, yeah, how else am I going to stay sane, bro? I need to get that shit out. The
gotta get it out,
rope's
bro.
got to come out one way or another.
Yeah,
But
shout out Rope Gang.
But at a certain point, it's like I'm turning down a girl that I was jerking off to 6 months ago because I'm in this relationship and trying to make it work. Like, what kind of sense does that make? I'm too practical. I don't know.
Yeah, man.
But
I like
I would
the way you
love
think,
to be
bro.
in the kind of relationship where I could be like, nah, I don't need all these hoes. Like that would be such a good feeling.
Especially if you just got this bitch that you just like, excuse my language. You find this girl that you just like adore and you just think she's the shit. You're like, I'm not about to fuck
Right.
this up for you.
Because at the end of the day, your relationship, who you choose to date or whatever, that's representative of who you are and like what you think of yourself. You know, so that's why we love seeing Jay-Z and Beyonce, because it lets us know like he sees her as the reflection of his greatness. Like, and that's a great thing for two people to be able to share. My thing is that I'm not going to get into anything approaching that. I'm not going to waste my time on any kind of relationship unless I'm actually like really sure that it's like that.
So
or
basically, you're not
close
looking
to
for
it.
some bum ass bitch that's looking to get saved.
I'm not going to get into a relationship and just try to make something work unless I'm like 100% sure that that's the move, you know?
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. I mean, but the other thing, it's just like being single is so fun. Like I hang out with my friends on this shit. Like I don't know how to go to a bar or go to a club without trying to talk to girls and shit. I would love. It sounds great. I'm just not sure exactly how that would work.
It's just like, what else do you do? You know,
right? Like what are you doing in the bar? If
you're busting your ass so hard in these podcasts, you don't have much time to actually be a boyfriend right now.
And see, that's the thing. If it would have worked out with that girl, it's like, yo, she's working 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock. She had a good job. I'm doing podcasts almost every night, 8 o'clock to midnight. So when the fuck am I? And I know that that's an excuse, like, oh, I'm too busy. It's just bullshit. Whatever.
No, but it's like that's real shit.
But it's real. It's like, you know, like, that's kind of, it's hard when you're on like, I'm on completely different schedules than almost everybody because I work all day and all night.
Yo, shout out to her. I don't know what happened, but shout out to her because you probably wouldn't have been right here if you would have stayed with her and like been trying to compromise her this whole time.
I don't know about that because like the first 4 months after that Antoine interview when I was with her, I was like, I was killing it. Like because I didn't have to think about going and talking to some girl in my DMs or whatever. I'm ignoring DMs. It's like when you're in a relationship, it does make all the other shit in your life really easy to get done because you don't have to worry about like, oh, it's Friday night. Like, am I going to go to this club? Am I going to hang out with this girl? Like, we all know like texting a million different people, figuring out what you're going to do. And all of a sudden I have this normal ass girl that's like, oh yeah, I want to come over Friday night with a bottle of wine. We're going to cuddle. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, sounds great. Let's do it. You know, but you know, I don't. It's you choose your fucking poison. It's like both are boring and both are great.
We talked about it before. It's kind of problematic logic, but it is kind of like just busy guy, successful guy logic, where it's like, hey, look, I'm not looking for a relationship, so if I'm going on dates, like I'm trying to actually like have those lead into sex, you know. So I've heard you say stuff before where it's like, man, I'm gonna, what am I gonna do? Go on a date, spend a couple $100 on a meal or whatever, and like not know where that's going or whatever, or girls like in your DMs. And she's like, it's going down. You're like, all right, I'm coming over.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know. I don't look down on a girl because she watches my podcast and wants to fuck me. Like, that's fine. Like, I totally understand.
Do you have any girls?
What would be wrong with that?
Who are your closest girlfriends?
I don't know. Like, honestly, like, I don't feel like I have a lot of close. Like, I have a lot of friends that I feel close to, but people that I actually talk to on a daily basis, I don't do it besides my group chats, to be honest, because I just feel like I'm so busy that I don't really have time to like hit my homeboy back from New York that I never get to see. Like, oh,
okay,
like,
man, how are you?
Yeah, look what happened to me today, or like, yo, like I just hung out with this person and this happened, or whatever. It's like I'm feel really lucky that I have like group chats because that's how I stay in touch with my friends. But like,
do you have girls in the group chats?
Hell no.
How many group chats do you have? But
basically, you should get one group chat with girls.
I have like the OSS crew. I have another one that's called the Bizzle group chat. That's just basically me and like a lot of other BMX dudes that aren't on OSS or whatever. And then I have the No Jumper group chat. And there's also a TCU group chat that's like we mostly talk business in there and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, like, but that's what's weird is like, okay, I'm good friends with Erin Jean. I could hit her up for a conversation or like, yo, you want to go hang out on some friend shit, like whatever, because me and her never had any kind of like sexual tension or whatever. But I just don't exist like that. Like I don't go just hang out. Like if I hang out with people, it's like I'm hanging out with my squad.
Well, now that you monetize your conversations, it's like why even talk to Aaron off camera?
Well,
not to be a dick.
There's some truth to that though. It's like, you know, like when I hang out with my friends, like if us three are gonna kick it, we could go to the movies. We could go like sit in the bar and have a few beers together, or we could come here. And the only difference is that like we're doing a podcast together, or I have to hit some guy up and get him to come so we can interview him or whatever. But we could sit here and do content. Like we could, you know, and
just
that
fucking press play on the camera.
I'm just more comfortable being proactive and working. Whereas like to me, not working is almost like its own form of stress. Like that stresses me out because I'm not being productive. You know,
that's what that's when you taught me that, and LZ taught me that, and sitting here taught me it was like, vlogging is monetizing your life. If you're going to go out, why not just do a little cut up video of it and see if anyone likes to watch it?
And that's what's crazy is like, okay, I went to Day and Night Fest. Like I went there, I got to hang out with a bunch of my friends, kick it with this girl that I've been meaning to kick it with and everything. And I made a video on my iPhone for the most part. And then I went home and it took me a half hour to edit it. And then I made a couple $100 off that video and grew my YouTube channel and represented what I was doing, had people hit me up because of that video, like, oh, you should go to this fest, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
wow, really?
Especially with the vlogs and stuff, it's like you can advance your life, advance your fucking scenario in your life so easily by just documenting what you're doing. And even like this weekend, like my homegirl's coming to town, and she's like asking me when I'm gonna, you know, she asked me to go to the FYF fest, and I wasn't really trying to do it, but then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, if I go to that fest, like, so something really good that I could do for the vlog that day, and I already like it would be kind of fun, and I get to hang out with her, so yeah, all right, I'll go do that.
You going for free too?
Nah, I spent $140 on that ticket.
That's not that bad.
I tried to get it free.
It's all right.
Yeah, $440. Fuck it.
You're gonna make that back, like you just said.
Yeah, man. I mean,
even if you don't, whatever.
And I don't think it's 100% positive that I am that way, where I'm always trying to be productive, because obviously there's like, you know, it's like you need to take a step back sometimes and be able to just
appreciate the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, could you lay on a beach for a couple of days?
Yeah, I think I could do that, but it was like by the end of those couple of days, I'm losing my fucking mind. Like, I need to get back to LA and get to work. Like, I was just in Greece for a week. Man, that was great. Like, I recharged my fucking brain, gave my brain some time to chill and everything. But the entire time I'm there, I'm thinking about the moves I'm going to make when I get home. And I don't know, when I go back home with my parents in New Hampshire, that's the best, because I don't do shit. Like their way of life is so different than my way of life, because literally, like, my mom, my dad, my sister, their goal in life is to spend time with each other and to spend time with the kids and to maybe go do some like fun things together and stuff. Like, they don't. My life is so much more complicated, where I'm always trying to think about how I'm going to advance my position. And it's like, when I go hang out with them, and I just realize that there's this like alternative way of life of not giving a fuck about growing or being something that you're not right now. And that's just so.
Well, it's a different kind of growth.
It's just love. Yeah. Like, and I love that. I love
that's internal growth.
I wish I could live in New Hampshire so I could be around them. I wish they lived here so I could be around that vibe more often. Yeah. So that's like my goal, is like to have that peace of mind that I get when I'm back in New Hampshire with my family, and to be able to feel that way when I'm in LA. And I think I'm better. Like, my stress levels are lower than they were a year or two ago, where I was less secure about the podcast. Like, that was a big change with the podcast, is that I was like, it took a long time for me to get confidence. I remember shaking, being so nervous before I fucking went to do a podcast, because I fucking, you know, just didn't know how I was going to turn out. Didn't know, like, you know, I was nervous. Now I don't get that way anymore. Nate, can you plug that Mophie into the side of the phone?
Yeah, it is a like a natural to get nervous, I think, before anyone. Like, you're probably first time. Were you nervous at all coming here?
I think the first time I didn't know. I was very nervous once I got here. I didn't think the concept of it, I was nervous, because I kind of knew you a little bit already. I think like once I got here and sat down, I was just very like, oh shit, I don't know what to say. It's going to be on YouTube forever.
It's funny from your perspective though too, because if you sit there and you're talking like 5 or 10% of the time, then that's like a normal amount for a co-host. Like, I'm asking the person questions, and if there's a 5 or 10 second gap, that's bad.
You don't like gaps. Like,
I hate the gap. Mind the gap.
I'll gap it up.
No, I mean,
gap.
Let's gap it up.
And especially like, man,
everyone
you ever do this? But no, like, I don't know. Like, I was nervous before interviewing Father, but for logical reasons. He's really, really popular. People have been asking us to interview him like crazy.
They're going to scrutinize the bigger interviews.
He's got a lot of work out there, so it's like I need to be real familiar with it. I need to know what he's talking about. If he brings up one of his artists on Awful and I don't know who they are, it's not a good look. You know?
There's always going to be someone who knows about whatever more about whatever artist you're talking to than you do.
Yeah,
right.
But that's not the point. The point isn't like outsmarting the artist.
Right.
It's like letting them shine and talk about their shit, and like if they bring up something, letting them expand on it or whatever.
And I don't want to be a super nerd. Like, I don't want to have Father in here and be like, yo, on the 4th song on your first mixtape, you said this. Now, because that's not relatable to the audience, you know?
Yeah.
And to me also, like, I love Nardwar, and he was one of the first like music interviewers that I got really into. But sometimes I look at like his style, where he's like, oh, Jimmy from the record shop that you used to work at when you were in 7th grade, he told us this and this and that. And like, you like this underground group from your town, and like, it's cool for the musicians sometimes, but sometimes I look at that stuff and I'm like, man, I like our interviews more because we're fans, but we're not like obsessed fans. Like, you know, it's like
we're like normal level.
It's
like,
more relatable, I think. Yeah. And I love shout out to Narwhal. That's not a diss at all. It's just like two different styles, you know.
He's working his ass off
he
for
kills it.
But like for
I don't even know how he
less reward than like something like the Breakfast Club.
I don't know about that though, because he has a contract with fucking some. Was he still with Pharrell's shit? The I Am One thing or
I Am Other? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But
I'm
I don't
just
know,
saying that like someone who can.
But he's
hit
been
a
on the
more
radio forever. He's been successful for a long time.
But someone who can hit a more massive audience and doesn't have to do as much research as he does and get all those gifts and be that deep in it.
But you could probably assume that there's people doing that shit for him, right?
That do that independent research and stuff. I don't know. Like some of the stuff that he knows about these people is like how the fuck.
I mean, he's clearly an authentic music nerd. I just assume he has a team.
He doesn't
of people
bring
that help
notes
him
with him too, right?
No,
I think he's holding a card. Right? I don't know.
Doot.
This has been No Jumper News.
Okay, so I'm here talking to Robes.
Man.
It's so funny when he does that and they don't know what to say. Like, I'm sitting here with Chief
Belt.
K.
Man, Adam, what do you feel so far about this interview? You feel good, bad?
Oh, yeah, I think it's great. I mean, if we go another 20 minutes, then it's like 2 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, I feel like it probably should be long if we're talking to the person that runs it normally.
Yeah, that's good. Honestly, dude, this was so fucking insightful. Like,
really?
Honestly, like I learned a lot about you sitting here at this table. Like just and not even just like from direct things you were saying, just like it just made me look at you just like as a person, as a whole, and I feel like I understand you a lot more now. And
let me just say that like this is one thing that like and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. But this is one thing that like crossed my mind that like it was just kind of like an experience, and I think I might have been fucked up on ecstasy when I thought of this, but it occurred to me like you can live your life day by day setting up a routine. I wake up in the morning, I go to get coffee, I work on this for a little while, I go and I fucking work out, and then I spend some time with my wife, and I do all these different things, and like you can arrange your life like that. But if you are a person that has a fucking goal in mind, like something that you know that you need to accomplish before you're going to be happy with your place in life, fuck a routine. Wake up every day and act like you're a fucking, like you're a warrior, you know, like you really like you're in a, if you imagine you're in the army and like you're like a I don't know. I don't even know what the proper terminology would be. You're an assassin, and you're out there in Afghanistan, and you got to kill Osama bin Laden, and it's just you, and you are going to go through life every fucking day, and you know that you can't chill out until you kill this motherfucker. At a certain point in my life, I started to think about my life like that. Like, unless I get this, and this, and I've done these things that I feel like I need to do, I have no business in relaxing, going on vacation, chilling out, doing drugs, all these other things that like would hold me back from fighting to be the type of person that I want to be, you know, like, and I don't know. It just occurred to me, like, I could get up every day and just fight for what I want. I don't need to have a routine. I don't know, like, and I still kind of feel that way.
On the flip side, though, like you are talking about like going super hard after a goal. Mm-hmm. Now, I think routines get a bad rap sometimes because people think of routines as going to a 9 to 5. That
you love routines.
Well, people think of it as a 9 to 5 that you don't give a fuck about.
Right.
If No Jumper News has been rolling, we've kind of had a routine almost this week.
Right.
Come in at 10,
and it
do a couple
scares
segments.
Me. I have like paranoid about that.
It shouldn't.
I know, and I'm glad that we actually did it because, like, to me, like the future of No Jumper and stuff, it's not necessarily No Jumper News. It's us going into the studio every day and being here and working on content like this. Like, we didn't plan on doing this today. This was just spur of the moment because we didn't have any other news to report on. But that's like, I don't know, like there is a fine line though, because it's like certain things are really important for routine, like exercising. Like, yeah, that's like if you want to keep your body and your mind working right, then and I've gotten much better lately at getting back into that routine, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I mean, I just and now, like, but it's different for me now because
had a routine
now
when you played poker.
Yeah,
you had a routine when you worked on a BMX website every day.
But it was like I didn't have a routine in the sense that I had to be somewhere every day. It was like I wake up, get on my computer, boom, I'm going for it.
What you're talking about is a routine that you set when you're responsible only to yourself, not somebody else.
Right.
Like, this is what I'm doing this week, and this is how this week is going to look. You know.
And I mean, I do see the value in a routine, especially now. But at that time, like, I'm going to be way too honest right here. Is that like this is 3-4 years ago or some shit, and I was like thinking about what I wanted to do. I'm like, I want to open a bike shop. I want to start this. I want to do all this shit. I'm like, I need money. I need like $50,000, like cash to do what I want to do. So what do you think I did?
Hit licks.
Sold drugs.
I mean, you know, I was like, I got that in my mind. Like, I'm fucking willing to do anything. I don't give a fuck, you know? Like, I'm going to fucking, we got to do some shit
How long were you out here pushing the weight for? And what were you exactly selling?
I was not nickel and dime, and I'll say that. It's like, but you know, like, there's different markets for different stuff on different sides of the country. Obviously. And we were fucking, I don't know, I hit some of my friends up. I'm like, let's fucking do this. And like, I mean, if I had to speed up the process of getting where I knew I wanted to go, then I fucking did it. And I mean, I'll do the same thing again tomorrow if I felt like I needed to fucking, like, I got high risk tolerance. Not as high as it used to be, but.
Yeah. You just have like, do you have like a fuck it syndrome, or you just feel like, oh, if I'm going to do the crime, I'll do the time? Or
I don't know. It's like, because I can't imagine myself doing that now. But it's like, if it came back to it, like, what are we all going to turn to? Well, I mean, I don't know about all of us, but it comes down to is like, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta make something for yourself.
When you're doing illegal shit, how often do you think about jail?
The whole time.
And like, what is your game plan when you go to jail? If you went to jail, like, what's the plan?
I don't know. I haven't done illegal shit in a long time, so I haven't had to think about it. But it's just like, I don't know. I was just like, that's like kind of why I had to stop scamming and shit back in the days, because all I could think about was fucking just how scared I was and how
paranoia level.
Yeah, and there's so many factors that aren't your fucking fault, you know. Like there's so many things that you can't control, and that's the problem. Like when you're in a legal business, you have a lot of control. And I'm kind of like, as I get older, I start to realize I'm kind of a control freak in the sense that
kinda.
You think?
Kinda.
But I mean, I just don't want to like. Doing illegal shit, you have a lot of control that you don't have, no matter what. So I don't know. I couldn't really see myself going down that road again. But I'm saying that like, if I had to do that to get myself where I'm at now, then and we know all these people who work in like the legal weed business now. How the fuck did they get there? What were they doing for 10 years before that? You know,
they're legally trapping, man.
The number of businesses that have started with dirty money, you know.
All like this one, man. Oh man, so let's just clear this up on some shit. It's not a money laundering.
And stop hitting me up trying to get me to sell you drugs either. Kids DM me about that shit every day.
Really? You?
Yeah.
DM you?
Well, they're like, I just need weed. I don't have my card. Or they're like, yo, like I know this might be weird, but I need ecstasy for me and my girl. I'm like, bro, I would never respond to it. But it's so crazy that they think there's any chance.
I didn't know that was a factor in your life.
The house phone. We got.
It's just funny when I see it because I'm like, man, I could be making so much more money if I fucking actually was willing to indulge these kids.
Bro, I had no idea that people did that to you. That's fucking crazy.
It's just because like I'll talk about how I used to sell drugs or some shit on the podcast, and then they think that I'm just saying it when I say that I used to. They think I'm like, yo, you still do that. It's like, bro, you know how fucking crazy I would have to be to do that?
Yeah. That's ridiculous, man. You know, I mean, I don't know. I feel like people need to realize that most of the stuff that, I mean, not most, like we're pretty much hands-on and authentic with the stories we tell and things that we discuss on here. Cause I don't know, like even when we were at the radio show in Gangsta Boo, we were telling her about how we met.
She's like, how'd you meet him? I'm like, oh, he's selling coke. And then we just started hanging out. And she was like, because she's like been in the music industry forever. She's like, wait, y'all are serious? I'm like, yeah. She couldn't even believe that because she's so used to people lying about selling drugs.
well, also, I probably just don't look like the typical nigga that was in there slanging packs, like or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like just like the dude earlier who was in here, he was asking me if this story was a joke or not. And I was like,
about you selling the postage stamp and saying it was a strip of acid?
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, dude, like that really like who. That doesn't cross my mind.
It's really hard to make that up.
Yeah, like how do you sit there and just make up some random shit like that? You know,
pretty unbelievable that it even happened in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh? All right, wait like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yeah. All right, so there's some customers here, so I guess it makes sense to wrap this up now. Any final little things you guys want to ask me?
Follow Adam22 and
hit me up, fam.
Yeah, I mean. Like, it's funny because I feel like there's people who have seen just one no jumper or one thing here or there or whatever, you know, and it's like this thing is growing and building, and you've made this whole kind of like thing that we're taking to the next level or whatever. Like, what do you see? I mean,
what's next, man? What's the plan?
I don't know. It's weird. Like,
I mean, it's weird for me to talk about no jumper like it's so big already, because it's like, to me, it's like, we haven't interviewed any mainstream rappers yet. We haven't interviewed any, like, I mean, we've interviewed some stars. You know, Andy Milonakis is pretty famous. We did like Lil Yachty before he really started cracking and shit like that. Is really, you know, it's good.
Riff Raff.
But bro, like, can you imagine what it'd be like if we got Rocky tomorrow or a fucking Gucci or fucking
or we start
Keef or
but
whoever.
You know what though? It's on the right track to get into doing stuff like that.
And I know so many YouTube channels that get a million views on every single thing they put out. It's like, we got so far to go, like so far that it could go upwards. And that's why No Jumper is fun to me, and why the BMX thing became something where I wanted to put other people in the position to make content instead of me going hard with it every day. Because with the BMX shit, it's like, I already probably hit the peak of knowledge people could have in me, or like peak of where I was going with it a long time ago. And, you know, No Jumper is like crazy, because it's like, I could have, you know, we have people on all the time that have never, that their fan base has never ever had a reason to watch No Jumper.
I can't wait till we get like that, like the big actor who just loves rap music and wants to be on No Jumper.
And because honestly, like, I hear about like legitimately like really famous people who watch the podcast all the time, and not to mention that, like, sometimes I'll be sitting there doing an interview, like talking about somebody, and then realize like, oh my god, that person's watching this interview. You know,
Yeah.
I'm doing Reese LaFleur yesterday. I'm just thinking like, man, it's so crazy that Lil Uzi Vert is watching this right now. Because how could he not? You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's wild. Or he's telling stories about Gucci, and it's like, oh man, I know how these motherfuckers are. I know they might listen to that shit.
Yeah, I saw you retweet that yesterday. Gucci tweeted about him. Okay, anyway, that's nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Sorry, nothing to do with
But
that.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm maybe like 5% of where I'm going with the podcast and shit. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
That's good though. You
I
got to
just-
keep that mindset, man. You
yeah,
keep
because
that
people
mind-
talk about us like we're successful. It's like I feel successful. Like, oh, I have enough money that I don't give a fuck about money anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like the business itself is like where it's going to be going. And I just hope that I don't know. I just hope people like really support us, and I really appreciate it. And like, it's pretty fucking crazy how crazy the fans
Yeah.
are. Like, it's.
I got recognized in 24-hour fitness yesterday.
Really?
Really?
I got
Swear
recognized
to
at the
God.
gym yesterday for the first time ever.
This guy goes, you're on No Jumper? I was like, this is my first time. I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
I went to the gym yesterday at like 7 p.m. and I never go that. I always go really late at night or really early. Or
I
like
was there at 7 p.m. too.
noon. But there was so packed and there was way too crowded. I need to get a new gym. But this white boy walked right up to me. He's probably 25, and he was just like, "Yo, I watch all your shit." And I was just like, "Damn, that's fucking."
Yeah, that's sick, bro.
I don't know. I never got recognized in the gym before because that's like about as untargeted a place as you can get. That'd be
Yeah.
like getting recognized walking on the street,
or
you
like
know?
at the grocery store.
Hey,
or
I just want to say too, thank you for letting me. Thanks,
Man.
A, for putting us on.
Man, for
you
real.
know,
For real, dude.
My pleasure. I like you guys.
It's fun to be a part of this, and it's like it's really badass what you're doing. Thanks for letting me sit in this chair. I think it's the first person I ever sit in this chair that's not you.
Yeah.
Definitely, probably. Well, Scott on the BMX side, I think Scott did a couple episodes without me there.
Okay.
Oh, and Catfish interviewed a couple of BMX guys when I wasn't there. So
But
those are on
first
the
time
BMX
No
side.
Jumper,
For
yeah.
No Jumper, yeah.
No, seriously, dude. Though, like, I know you didn't plan on like putting anybody on or like anything like that, but like you've been so influential in my own personal life, and I really do appreciate it. You know, just by us fucking just being cool, and just I don't know, you show a lot of love, man, and you really are a good dude. You
Well,
really-
I'm not good with compliments, but thank you. I appreciate
No,
it.
yeah, you're welcome, man. For
That's
real,
dope.
dude.
I mean, like, I just think you guys are talented and funny. And
Yeah, I mean, like you have a good platform here, man. We're working to making it something good, and like I think every day I start to realize that it's actually something serious, and I shouldn't like take it lightly, and I should probably try to get here on time and be professional and shit like that. It's actually affecting me to where like I'm like actually watching the way I move when I'm out. When I'm out at parties and shit, and the way I engage with people, because like now I'm kind of representing something as a whole, and it's not just about me and my personal image anymore. You know,
that's dope.
so
Any
Glad to hear
any closing statements?
you're still a fucking bitch, but that's pretty much it.
Well, you still fuck all my hoes because you low-key are gay for me. But I would say check out onsomeshit.com. It's our website. If you want to support us, buy some clothes, some shit. That's also Snapchat, onsomeshit.com. And then Twitter's onsomeshit.
New
Instagram,
No Jumper
onsomeshit.
Rosen shirts out soon. New house phone shirts out soon. Merch on the way.
Oh wait,
I'm hungry as a motherfucker.
I gotta eat. I haven't eaten
I'm
all day.
so
Smash that food,
hungry.
buddy. This has been No Jumper News.
This has been No Jumper.
Oh no, wait, no, this is just No Jumper
Hands all
Adam.
clammy. You know? All right, yeah. Great ending. Thank you.
Fucking did that. That was awesome. That's cool. That was like 2 hours, wasn't it? What are you guys trying to eat? Want me to end this?
Go to this meeting.
End it?
I gotta go home. Yeah, end it.